Uh, what is up, y'all? It's your boy Aniki coming at you with a very special Church of MHA Sunday OVA stream, as we talked about last week. Doing something a little different since we got this off week, going ahead and continuing the content. But there's no chapter for me to read or live react to, so I'm going to open up with letting you know that we got Bishop BG back in the building, and we'll just let people come through. How you doing, BG?
Very good, very good.
So BG and I decided that we'd open this up with just talking about the anime, especially because I've liked where it's gone. I've seen some stuff that I get why some people have whined about, but let's talk about stills real quick, just because we had already kind of been talking about that and how the utilization of them kind of contributes to having crazier and crazier episodes down the line. For example, we know that somebody said like, oh, episode 4 is looking like it might adapt 4 chapters. And I'm like, that's probably going to be a lot of wild stuff then. And hey, but BG, how'd you feel about how episode 3 was done? Let's talk about that as a whole, though, because I know you still come in here and have a lot to say, but how did you feel about this last episode, especially?
I thought it was great. I thought it was a good use of their time. Their comedic timing was good. I thought the episode had great usage of, I think they had great implementation of score. Mm-hmm. Like the music placement was fucking elite. What is it? I know they added a bunch. I know they had one of my favorite cut in this so far in the season in this episode, which is where Dobby is standing on Hawks' face and starts to light him up.
Oh yeah, that was actually done really, really well.
Yeah, I've watched that. I've looked at that cut like 20 times already. It's so good. It's so impactful.
It's wild because one of the things that I never realized what people don't realize sometimes until the anime comes around. And I didn't realize that some people didn't know that they high-fived as Twice was trying to escape.
They didn't recognize that?
I guess not.
That's shocking.
Right? I was like, I mean, okay, then good on the anime for making sure they got that right. But because I'm like, if the readers can miss it, then there's a chance that somebody in the studio can miss it. So I gotta appreciate the fact that nobody missed it now. Hey, Mr. Andrew and Lamar. But I think that I've actually liked the pacing of this season. The fact that we opened up without a recap episode, which I think that in of itself should tell people that either one or two things happen. And I'm leaning more towards the latter than the former. Bones either had a really good production schedule, opted for, conserving time on some of the earlier episodes because this whole arc wasn't going to be able to be, wild and crazy Sakuga every single episode. I know people wanted that, but I think if we would have gotten that, we would have had to take like a mob break, right? Like a 4-year gap to make sure every single episode of this war was insanity. And what's more is that with Bones loving their students, I could see the first 6 episodes being the ones that would get like, a bit more of the stills in. And then these back 7 of the first core kind of being nuts because that's about the time when Deku's going to start coming in. That's when we're going to get Endeavor in. Because I think Endeavor versus Shigaraki is going to be one of the most telling scenes for how we're caring about and going with this season.
I mean, they've already done an Endeavor cut already, and it was already immaculate. So I think they really love Endeavor. So I think they'll do great with that. But I mean, the other thing is, if I'm understanding correctly, the Master K is going to be in like 2 episodes, right?
It's looking like it. Let me pull up the chapter list real quick, just so I can kind of get a frame of reference for how they're doing it. But I do think the Master K is going to be like episode 4 or 5, or 5 or 6, I should say.
Yeah, I think episode 4 will end on the start of the Master K, or maybe when they break the glass.
Because let's see, because I think we got to 266 today.
Yeah.
Yep, we hit 266, which I wasn't sure if we were going to finish on that or not. So yeah, we're getting 266, which means next week starts with 267. So that'll be like the fight with the high ends, Endeavor busting in and clutching. So them coming in. Now let's see. Real quick. I want to get like a good idea of where we're looking at. 269, 270. So yeah, if we get up to 270, we'll get to Shigaraki's dream sequence. But we don't know for sure that we're going to get that far. Because if we finish next episode at 269, then that's like DJ Punch, and then killing woman and the Lord of Evil's dream will die would be the end of the episode if we went to 269. So if we go that route.
So was the Master K 271?
I think so. Because
okay.
Yeah. Let me see.
So yeah, that's episode 5, right? 271.
Yeah, 271 is looking to be like episode 5.
Good shit. That's what I wanted.
Because wait, let me see. Nope, because 271 is when Giganto Mafia stands up. So it's 272 where we get the Master K. So it'll be like the end of an episode, because 270 is when he does the thing on the floor where his heart starts.
Well, so the question is it like the end of the episode that it's going to lead into the next, or is it the end of the episode? It's going to cap the episode off?
Ooh. So I think having it. So if I were directing it, I would probably close off on I would actually close off at the end of the chapter where they try to do the Air Force and everybody's like screaming to run.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I think that one, having like completed chapters in episodes usually leads to better structure, but two, you can kind of finish off on a monologue or on Ujiko's monologue where, he's like, everything you've built up, all of this is coming to ruin, but now we witnessed the miracle. Like all of that, have that be the finale of an episode and just make people sit in that.
Oh yeah, no, I feel you. That makes sense.
And you're not late to the stream. This stream we don't have a chapter this week, so this stream is just kind of talking about whatever we feel like in manga, whether it's Shonen Jump, whether we feel like talking about anime. I told Fish to get on so we could talk about Pop-Tarts, because there was a post that said men should only be using podcasts to talk about Pop-Tarts. So we'll see if we actually get around to that.
Wait, who said that?
It was some post randomly where somebody was just like, the only thing men should be using these podcasts for. And then it was like this long 3-minute argument about favorite Pop-Tart flavors, where the dude was like, what's your favorite Pop-Tart? And then he said strawberry. The dude immediately goes, oh, that's a bitch answer. That's such a conformist, didn't like that type beat. And he's like, okay, you know what my favorite Pop-Tart is? The 2002 Spider-Man tie-in Pop-Tart. I think that was Wildberry.
The fuck?
So they're arguing about whether or not it's justified to have a Pop-Tart. And he's like, well, what's your favorite Pop-Tart? He's like, the cinnamon Pop-Tarts, the cinnamon roll Pop-Tarts are pretty good. He's like, see, look at you. You're going to go with these fancy new wave flavor. Oh, I like the green apple Pop-Tarts. Oh, yeah, okay. What's next? You're gonna like the chocolate ones with no icing? So they're just going back and forth aggressively yelling about Pop-Tarts. Whereas Fish came in and gave the real take, which is that toaster strudels are better than Pop-Tarts.
Oh,
easily. Hands down.
I mean, I can't argue. I buy toaster strudels more than I buy Pop-Tarts.
I buy Pop-Tarts more than I buy toaster strudels. I haven't had a toaster strudel since I was 15. I'm like, what, 27 now?
Oh, yeah.
Same.
That's okay. I'm 29, so I'm old. As far as, actually, you know what's funny? I bought my lady a Diamond Minecraft Steve figure.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, damn, this box, because it comes from Mattel, says exactly on it what more people need to hear, because you always hear about, like, what are, like, these people in their late 20s doing involved in any kind of fandom stuff? What are they doing here? And on the back of the Minecraft Steve box, you know what it says? This product is for the adult collector.
That's the spirit.
Because, and this is something that my buddy and I were talking about, where the loot box controversy was popping up because of like Overwatch 2 being like buy battle passes or bust.
Yeah.
And first off, props to the psyop that was Overwatch for convincing a whole generation of people, or at least a strong subsect of the gaming community, that lottery boxes that give you nothing you want 90% of the time is better than being able to just directly buy what you want. Like, I don't know who was in charge of that campaign, but props to you for that brainwashing job, because that is insane.
No, the thing is with the loot boxes in Overwatch, you didn't have to pay for them. You could if you wanted to, but you don't have to. In this one, literally every single skin, other than like the ones you don't really care about, they all cost like $10, and that's like,
that's normal.
That's what I'm saying, but that's not good. Like, that's not good.
So you know what the issue comes down to is that people are looking at Overwatch 2 through the lens of I paid $60 for this game, and not through the lens of a free-to-play game.
Mm-hmm.
Because free-to-play games have always, especially if you play League of Legends, you pay $10 for a skin because you don't pay for anything else in the game.
Oh, I'm not gonna lie to you. I would prefer if this wasn't free to play because no, because I'm gonna be real with you. The game they promised us is not what we got. This game is literally you've seen SpongeBob, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, which SpongeBob SquarePants movie? Because it's been a couple.
The original, the only one that matters, the original.
Yeah, the Goofy Goober.
Yeah, that one.
Yep.
Overwatch 2 is literally just the Krusty Krab 2.
Oh, so it's trash.
No, it's not that it's trash. It's that it's literally Overwatch 1 with like one.
Fair.
Yeah,
like
one
or two new characters. Like, it doesn't even feel much different, honestly. And they have a lot of things to tweak with the characters too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I like the game. It's fun. I enjoy playing it. It's just more like this doesn't deserve to exist. It shouldn't exist.
Part of it is also them being like, man, loot boxes are being literally made illegal because they're gambling. Well, yeah.
Is the story mode even good?
There is no story mode. They didn't add that.
Oh,
I thought there was going to be one.
There was supposed to be. And there was.
No.
I mean, no. They said apparently they're still going to work on that.
I see.
I don't know if League being paid to play would help the community or make it drastically worse.
You said League?
Yeah, because somebody said if only LOL was paid to play, man. Because
I don't think anything would make League good or bad. League would always just be League.
Like,
it would just have less people.
Because I played a lot of League in my day. Like, I played a lot of League in my day. But League being paid to play, I don't think it will resolve a lot of things, because at this point, you have that subsect of people who are like pro Tyler 1 fans, and they revel in, well, his old version, when he used to flame every single person in every single game as a Draven main, and then feed if Draven got banned. But there's people who love being toxic in League. And it would be weird because it'd be like, I built it. That's the main thing that making League pay to play would probably stop. Smurf accounts.
Oh, I hate Smurf accounts.
Because that's where a lot of the toxicity in League came from. Dudes smurfing and then being like, oh my God, why are these level 5 noobs not good enough at focusing on objectives and stuff like that? And it's like, because they're actually level 5 and you played this game for 5 years and decided you wanted to beat up on level 4, level 5 players. So, I mean, there's a difference.
What am I looking? Oh yeah, NFL box draft. Yeah, no, I agree. That's the thing. Like, I think Overwatch 2, they should. Somebody's playing Overwatch right now. I think I heard.
That's probably Fish.
No, not right now. Not right now. I've been playing it every day though.
I could have sworn I heard like that loading sound. But yeah, no, that game was supposed to have a story mode. It was supposed to add push. They did that. and then it was supposed to have like raids too, like a raid mode. Then, but it seems to me they're not doing any of that.
Mhm.
It's very upsetting because that's why I was excited for the shit. Don't seem like that's where it's heading.
That's a shame. Like me, I couldn't really get into Overwatch nearly as much as I tried to, partially because I was like, wow, I got this free loot box. Oh, it didn't give me anything I wanted. Like that's my thing, is that like loot boxes were not satisfying by that point. Like if I'm gonna grind for something, it being free but being a dud means you might as well have given me nothing.
I might as well have paid the money.
Well, that's the thing. It's like I said, it's not necessarily like a dud. It's just more like, but in your case, since you didn't weren't like too sold on Overwatch 1, you wouldn't be sold on this one either.
Yeah, it's like literally the same.
Yeah,
it feels like the buying of the skins and stuff like that. It feels like Apex Legends. Like you literally have to pay like $10 for each one. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yep.
Wasn't Apex free from launch?
Yeah.
So yeah, like to me, if a game is free to play and you buy the skins, all you're really doing is, because at the end of the day, one, Overwatch skins, if I'm honest, weren't a big deal to me either way. But that's partially because you couldn't do some of the stuff you do in League with Overwatch skins. Because if you change all the particles all the time, it just creates a lot of confusion, especially in the first person shooter.
Mhm.
Whereas in League, like you could, if you got a skin, you got a custom outfit, sometimes a custom recall animation attached to it. All your moves would have different particles, more than likely, if you were buying one of the more expensive ones. They retired most of the skins that were just recolors. So you had to have been playing from like season 1 or beta if you wanted some of those older skins. So I don't know. But I'll say that even when loot boxes were at the height of their popularity and they got added to League, people were like, these are cool, but because those were like, you have to earn an S plus or like an S ranked game. So you have to earn like 4 S ranked games. You can only get 1 loot box per character. So you had to like rotate your characters, but you could get like 52 free boxes, but nobody cared because a lot of us were veterans and owned half the champions and stuff. So it's like, these are useless. So anytime something was useless, it was like, I guess I'll just recycle it. But after a point, it came down to just never getting what you wanted, which is the same with like most of these. And I think if you played Overwatch 1 for like 5-6 years, then of course, now you're like, wait, I got a lot of cool stuff. But it's like, I don't think you remember how many times you were disappointed. There's no way. Because it's gambling. So it's like the same catharsis you get from like, I bet on this team like 3 weeks straight and they've lost all 3 weeks, but I made $20 this week. So that's my goat and I'm gonna keep betting on them. How they get you. Pokemon Unite. I haven't played Pokemon
Unite. Lose it just lost there after a while.
Also, I'm gonna be honest and say that I definitely bought plenty of skins while I played League. I won't lie to you. I was like, I like this game. I put 50 hours in it this week alone. I'll buy a skin.
Yeah, if you really enjoy the game, like I used to do that with Apex though. Like I was really into it a while ago, so I was buying skins and stuff like that.
Because there was a point where I had every single skin available for Diana, Jace, Zed, Ezreal, Nidalee, because there was this random jungle Nidalee phase that happened. At first, I wasn't with it. Then I was very with it. I remember I played on a Smurf account. See, even I did a Smurf, but I was nice to those people. I played on a Smurf account with jungle Nidalee. My team had 33 kills and the enemy team had 53 kills. 28 of the 33 kills that my team had was my Nidalee, and we won.
This is sick. Let's go.
Like, oh yeah, I had every skin for Echo too, without question. Actually, real quick, did y'all watch Arcane?
Man.
Yes.
Did y'all watch Arcane?
Man,
I did.
Arcane was good, bro.
It was very good.
I'm gonna be real. They took a lot of liberties with the lore. That doesn't bother me. It still felt there was liberties taken with the lore, but it was still faithful to the characters and their dynamics for the most part. So that was actually really nice to see.
What was old boy's name that got onto like the council and stuff, and then he was like one of them. Jace. Oh man, he was.
I played a lot of Jason League, so I was like, he's one of the MCs, bet.
What did he have, like that hammer or that, bro? He was hard in our game, bro.
Bro, he had the hammer. He has a hammer that converts to a cannon. And when you play him in League, you get, so he has two kits basically. His ultimate just swaps between hammer and cannon form. So you get the shock blast, you get accelerated attacks for like 3 attacks. So you get max out your attack speed for a couple seconds. You get an acceleration gate. You can shoot the shock blast through the acceleration gate and it gets a 40% damage buff. I have sniped people without being able to see them on screen with that thing. Like there are players used to just build armor penetration. And between like 15 minutes to 25 minutes in the game, bro, if you had 2 armor pin items, you were taking off like 40 armor. They were getting like 80% of the damage from any shock blast. You just accelerated gate, shock blast, boom. If they were squishy type, you just watch their health bar go to less than half from full. It was crazy. Oh man, playing Jace back at the day. Mid-game carry though. Once late game rolled around, you started to feel kind of bad for playing unless you really got it done right or you were in a poke comp. But yeah, Jace getting the girl isn't a surprise. One of his most popular skins is Debonair Jace, where he's wearing like a white tuxedo with a rose on his lapel.
Debonair Jace. Wow.
Yes. There's a whole line of like Debonair and Valentine's Day skins. So that's one of the things they like every year somebody gets at least 2 to 3 people get like Valentine skins. Though I think the only person with an Easter skin is Teemo, which is like cotton candy Teemo. Also fuck Teemo.
Why do you hate Teemo?
Who doesn't hate Teemo? Teemo is scum. Look, so on one hand, I've ruined a lot of Teemo's days because they're bad people. So you never have to feel bad. It is always morally correct to kill the Teemo. But so Teemo is just annoying. That's all it comes down to really, is that he's annoying to play against. Like he's not, it's like from the blinding dart, which I don't know if he still has that. Maybe they got rid of that. That'd be nice. Be real nice. But from the blinding dart to the mushrooms, I cannot say this enough, the mushrooms, to the fact that he has a dot on auto attack, annoying, just annoying to fight. Especially back when he used to do Leandri's Rylai, so then you get double slowed, and because you were slowed, you would take like 2% of your current health as damage for the next like 4 to 5 seconds. Actually, I think it ended up being like 8 seconds because of the eyes of pain burn and the constant poison. It was a lot. It was a lot. Teemo was just an annoying dude to deal with.
I really liked Silco, because I've never played the game, but I did enjoy the series Arcane a lot. I liked Silco and I liked Vlad a lot as well in the series.
Silco is one of those characters that I don't think he was. I think he was actually an Arcane original, because I can't remember any characters that he was supposed to be.
Who? You talking
Silco.
about?
Silco. I think he was completely original to Arcane.
That's that dude with the fucked up eye, right?
Yeah.
He's original. He's original.
But I do think he eventually got added into TFT, so he might become a lead character at some point.
What's TFT?
Basically, it's like this auto chest that Riot made. So it's you take like lead characters, and now I guess in addition to Arcane, so they'll probably integrate Valorant at some point too. And basically, you get these different pieces, and as you gather the pieces, you gather duplicates of them. And when you get duplicates, they get stronger. Once you get enough of them, they start merging into one, and then you place those out on the battlefield, and you kind of just have them fight it out with the opponent's composition. And they all have like different roles and stuff like that. So I remember one season I played and it was like, oh, if you have 2 snipers, they get an extra like 4% damage every square away they are from an opponent target. If you had assassins, you could they would jump to the back line of the enemy's comp right at the start of the fight. So you could end up running 4 assassins, 4 vanguard. So you'd have 4 tanks, 4 assassins. So you'd jump on their back line, instantly kill somebody's team comp that had a bunch of snipers or something, and then just blow up their whole day, stuff like that. So I didn't like it that much. It was just something that I was willing to try because one of my old buddies at work was trying to constantly get me to play it. Sorry, I accidentally refreshed Twitter, and a screenshot from a TikTok popped up, and it said when he's a 10, but he accidentally got my mom pregnant when I was out of town, and they were keeping it. So now I don't know if he's my boyfriend or stepdad.
Huh? That's
A lot.
It happens to everyone.
That was a lot.
That's a lot to digest, to hear.
So Team Fortress 2. I mean, yeah.
Let me see something real quick.
Oh, he isn't?
Wait, did you ever announce Volk being in here?
Volk got in here and didn't say anything? Volk, what you sneaking in here for?
I know. I was waiting for you to be done with League because I don't care about League.
Oh, that's
True.
fair. All right, Volk, how'd you?
Oh, my bad. Go ahead. Let Volk do his thing. Yeah.
Volk, since 3 of y'all came in here a little while after BG and I got done talking about the anime, how are you feeling about this week's episode and how the season's been facing?
Okay. So I've always been pretty positive about the show. I think it gets an unfair rap because everybody likes the first 3 seasons. That's pretty universal. Season 4 got a lot of flack because, overhaul, they kind of copy pasted a lot of the backgrounds. But on top of that show came out right after Demon Slayer, which was just opened people's eyes to what anime could look like. And that was the big shonen series that came out right after. So season 4 kind of got this a reputation I don't think it really deserves. You go back and watch it; it's a very good season. Season 5 demonstrably has its flaws. Not so much in animation. It's just the very nature of the season, and especially how they arranged MVA and then Endeavor Agency. They swapped them. It makes it largely a 2-location season. Aside from Endeavor Agency, which takes place all across wherever Endeavor's agency is located, it's largely 2-location. The training grounds and then Deka City. So heading into this, a lot of people were skeptical. I wasn't one of them because I knew that this was the season they'd been preparing for since 2020. Ever since those chapters came out, Bones definitely looked at that and said, okay, we have to change some things. And that's part of why season 5 ended up the way it did. Season 5 was basically a practice run. They kind of threw MVA on the pyre because they knew that the bigger piece of the pie was going to come after. And I think it's really paying off so far. I've loved the first 3 episodes. This episode especially, Twice's death. You had to absolutely nail this. And what they accomplished was, and there was still some bits of Sakuga here and there, Ragnarok versus Redestro. That was really cool. But what I was impressed with this episode was the storyboarding, the framing, the direction. It was you didn't get a whole lot of movement, but it took advantage of the fact that it was in one location. Whereas season 5 did have a lot of static, very flat shots. This one is a lot more dynamic. The guy who storyboarded it is actually from Shaft. And for those of you that don't know who Shaft are, they did Monogatari, which is, regardless of the content, incredibly well directed. It looks amazing. And he brought a lot of that here, and it really paid off. And I also really appreciated that the ED change. It was only like 2 frames, but the fact that they added that in makes me wonder what else they're going to change about the ED in later episodes. You know, there's
Mhm.
Dabi, there's Shigaraki, there's hell. You could do maybe Toga again after Ochako and Toga have a little scuffle. I don't know, but it's just man, this season's really good so far, and I think this also this also reaffirms what I've been saying. Is like it's not MVA, it's not these other arcs. PLW in the anime is going to be the one that really cements MHA, and I think it is so far. I think it is. So very happy. That's my long-winded answer.
We never talked about the opening either.
Oh, I actually like
the
the
opening. The OP.
I like
Probably
it.
my favorite OP.
Well,
Agreed.
I-
Agreed.
from a visual perspective, I agree. Probably it's the most unique.
It's
Uh,
definitely like I saw some people say, "Oh man, I wish the show looked like that for most of it." And like, of course, I agree, but it's fucking impossible to do on a TV show.
Well, it's not impossible. No, it's not impossible. It would just take way more time than they have available.
It's impossible on the current schedule. I mean,
Yeah.
it would
Yeah.
have to be. It would have to be.
Yeah.
It would have to be a whole new production. You would have to do what One Piece did for some of its arcs and where it condensed some of the manga stuff into like movies.
mhm.
That would be the only time you'd get that.
Mhm.
So
Which I know some people want a Star and Stripe movie. I don't.
you're not gonna get a Star and Strike movie. It's
We
gonna
don't need that.
no. It's
I
not
think it'd be
like-
cool, but we don't need it. I agree.
Even Mugen Train was kind of stretching it, and they made that the start of season 2 anyway.
That was so disrespectful.
Not only that, but they didn't conclude Mugen Train properly. They had to wait until after they adapted it to the anime
It was
for
evil.
the Rengoku family content.
It was an evil genius move though, because that shit made like $600 million or something.
You're right.
Jesus.
They knew what they were doing.
I don't know how they put that's okay. So this ties into one of my things that I've said before, that a lot of people like undermine the success of MHA in Japan because they think of it as like MHA is like, it's like comics, it's superheroes. That should be like the norm, and they'll just eat that shit up in Japan. So it should be selling like demons. I'm like, no. That's a very American, like Americanized view on like how superheroes are. I get it. We live in this MCU era. We've got more out runtime in phase 4 and superhero product than we had like out of the first 3 phases. I get it. But you got to understand something important. The superhero comics genre of Japan is not superheroes. If you're looking for the equivalent, it's Exorcist series.
Mm.
Exorcist series are the superhero comics genre of Japan.
Every new series that it's always Exorcist, at least one of them.
Like there's a reason why. And I think we went through this a couple months ago where I was like, look, Chainsaw Man, whether people realize it or not, is an Exorcist series.
Yep.
Jujutsu Kaisen is an Exorcist series. Kimetsu no Yaiba is an Exorcist series. Jigo Kuraku is like a dark fantasy horror, but it has elements of Exorcist series in it.
Why do you think? Yeah, why do you think in every anime that's like takes place in high school, unless it's something specific like MHA, there's like an occult research club or some sort? Those are the superhero nerds. Those are
Mob
the
Psycho.
Mob Psycho.
Oh, yep, Mob Psycho. Like there's a ton of Exorcist series, and they almost always go bird. Like one of the best ways I've been able to explain this is like between 2018 and now, Jump had Bone Collector. It's been running, KNY, JJK, even when KNY ended. it tried to get what was that last one? Duran was another Exorcist series. And if you just look at what Shueisha's putting out, then you also have to add in like Twin Star Exorcist. You have to add in that they were in charge of D. Grayman. You have to add in that basically, if you do the math, there's about like 10 to 15 active Exorcist series from Shueisha within the past 5 to 6 years alone.
Chain Soldier.
Um,
Little different.
Wait, what?
like on the
Trade
suit-
what?
It's not up your alley, Thomas. I'll say that much.
I've never heard of that before. What the hell?
Akame ga Kill
Oh,
artist
then never mind.
and I think author. It's like an etchy series. So
Oh, then not up my alley. I didn't like it. Comic
it's mixed with Exorcist, and it's already super popular.
Oh, what
No,
was
that's
that?
fair.
What was that one Exorcist series that had to get taken out of Jump, where out of the like Viz dropped it?
Phantom's here because I'm
No. Viz dropped this one. It was the one about the
Ayakashi Triangle.
Ayakashi Triangle.
That was Kentaro Yabuki. They weren't prepared when they had like the simulpub. They weren't prepared for like the etchy stuff because the previous one was Yuna and the Haunted Hot Springs.
Yep.
Also Exorcist.
Another Exorcist.
Yeah. So it was the previous etchy series, but that was licensed by 7C, so they didn't have to worry about that. But then Yuna ended, and this other manga shows up, Ayakashi Triangle. They're like, we can't put this on our app. So they put it on Manga Plus, and they basically spent the entire run of Ayakashi Triangle before it moved to Jump Plus trying to get rid of it. Basically, because like that's just not what their brand is over here.
And Roboco isn't selling like that because gag mangas seldom sell like that.
Yeah.
So they're held to completely different standards.
Gag manga are weekly. Like I've got a few copies of Jump with the MHA covers on them. Roboco is almost always on the spine. It's almost always on the spine.
Because it's the goat.
That
So- Yeah, like which I've tried to read Roboco.
It's hard to read.
My biggest issue with Roboco is that it does meta humor the way the MCU does meta humor now.
Oh, it does better humor like humor like She-Hulk does.
It's a little too far. And the thing that's worse about it is that because Roboco is so referential, the only thing that it'll be good for in like 10 years is working as a time capsule of what was going on in Jump while it was running.
Yeah, true.
Because it doesn't have enough of a story or enough humor of its own, and it's consistently borrowing from other stuff.
I see people say that it's like an ex Gintama, and I'm like,
No, it is not. It is not.
Gintama referenced a lot of shit, but it had humor all by itself.
It also had its own story. Like it had its own, foundation. It didn't solely copy other manga.
I don't hate Roboco or anything because like I don't read it. I've read 2 chapters and I was like, okay, no. And I had a horrible feeling once I started reading it that they were gonna keep this one around because the rumor is the head editor really likes gag manga, like even more than normal. So
if I'm honest with you, I don't think Demon Slayer is going to be considered a big deal in 10 years either.
No, I don't think so either.
really,
No.
I think it'll be looked back on fondly. I don't think it'll be
like
what you said.
maybe over here. I think in Japan, like it's huge, man. Like it literally it revitalized a lot of their economy. Actually,
I think it did a lot of good for them economically, but I think it's going to be similar to the Avatar effect, where it does, because Avatar, big thing, made big money, biggest takeaway 10 years later, nice visuals.
and and also film Twitter trying to convince everybody the movie is good.
Yeah.
Guys, you just don't understand the story and the nuances and the characters. You just don't understand it.
Okay, look, I'm going to be honest with you guys about Avatar. Another thing I do not hate, but my dad loves that movie. He loves that movie. And every time when we, like at our old house, we had a theater set up in the basement, we'd watch that. I'd watch it with him just, as father-son bonding. I was always bored to tears throughout. Just every time I'd just be like staring at the screen and I'd be like, the blue monkeys, they're on floating rocks. And that was it. That was all I took from it. And so like when I see people try to insist, no, Avatar's underrated. You guys are just like caught up in the hype. And I agree, like to some degree, people are a little too determined to downplay it, but it's like it's never been that great. I'm sorry. It's
also too long for the story itself. I feel like they could have cut it down a bit.
You feel like it could have been a 90-minute movie because you watched the 90-minute movie called Pocahontas that made the same point.
You're right.
But here's the thing: if he does this again and Avatar 2 makes like $2 billion, I'll just shut up. I'll be like, okay,
look,
what he's doing works. I can't argue against it. I don't like it, but it works.
So my stance on this is, have you ever heard my 7 out of 10 theory?
What's the 7 out of 10 theory?
My 7 out of 10 theory is that the most popular things will always be 7 out of 10s. And the reason for that is that the closer you creep towards 10 out of 10 territory, the more of an artistic statement you have to make. And the more like cohesive and tight-knit your story has to be. In turn, this means the odds of people missing details and not walking away fully understanding it increases. The odds of somebody who's on the opposite side of the issue increases. You see the problem now. Like the more cohesive and whole an art piece is, and the more direct and strong in its messaging it is, the more polarizing it inherently will become. So in order for something to be like really popular, like super, super popular, it has to offend like a very few people, which in turn means it can't have like hard stances on really anything too much. Or at the very least,
about One Piece,
it has to be said and then kind of just tucked away. But it can't be the central thing. One Piece is a great example, actually.
Oh, are we getting into that?
One Piece is a great example of this theory in action because people will be like, One Piece is deep. It has themes of slavery, war, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, but those aren't the themes of One Piece. Those are tools of which are utilized to show you that freedom is a man's greatest treasure, which is the actual theme of One Piece. And we know this because Luffy is never punished in any way narratively for paying zero attention to the politics of the world and just punching people. He never goes back and is like, I accidentally put a tyrant in power because they gave me a cheeseburger, which when you look at the way Luffy's character is written is exactly what should have happened at some point in the story. Luffy pays attention to how people treat him. And then if they treat other people badly, he'll like be mad about that. But that Luffy is very lucky in that he always meets victims, never the persecutor.
If you listen carefully, you'll hear the One Piece ninjas on your way to kill you for that take.
Okay, I think to defend Luffy here, I think what I find enjoyable about him is he never pretends to be a hero. Like one of the first things he says early on is like, I'm not a hero. I just help people I like. And like, he's a good person, but that doesn't mean he's a hero. So I think that's what keeps the manga. Like, I think that's a better thing overall because of the nature of the manga, that you have somebody who just is not so restricted by like conventional, good and bad. This is also why like there's like a spin-off little page of the MHA cast, and like Deku is dressed as Roger, and the rest of 1A are like his pirate crew, like, all right, let's do some good, and they immediately turn themselves in to the world government. So, yeah, just goes to show you different world. My stance on One Piece overall, I rated it an 8 out of 10 because I think it's more than the sum of its parts. Is my stance on it. If I'm looking at it overall, I'd probably give it a 7, but I give it an 8 because when you take it all and you read through it, there really is nothing else quite like it. So that's why it gets an 8 from me. So
I would say for me, I would rate One Piece a 7 out of 10. I was mostly 8 out of 10 up until the conclusion of Wano. And I've said this in the server, and it's especially in voice calls all the time, how I dislike Wano because it took a character that was built up for so long, Kaido. And I was like, I really like Kaido. He's really cool. And then you get the entire clash with Luffy and Kaido, and it's in my opinion, his best writing. And then you drop the ball with his backstory and the end of his character.
So fun fact.
And it broke my heart.
Fish and I were DMing about this. And one of the things that I said was that even though it ended up not happening exactly how we were talking about it, because I was kind of like just joking and giving like the worst case scenario, it very much did become exactly more or less what I thought, which is that Kaido wanted to be Joy Boy, realized he wasn't that guy, and was waiting to lose to Joy Boy. And that's all there was to it. He was waiting to lose to Joy Boy. And that was something that, like I said, like, I think I might have even said that to Fish before we got the Gear 5.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was before Gear 5th, too.
Like, we were talking about it, and I was like, no. The fact that Kaido was looking for Joy Boy means that he's going to end up in some way acknowledging Luffy as Joy Boy. I thought it was going to be a little more direct, but we're sitting on that reveal because at the end of the day, Kaido did acknowledge that just as he was falling through the hole. He was like, the person who's going to defeat me will be Joy Boy. So we got Kaido's acknowledgement that Luffy was the great pirate of the future, like that the future was foretold.
Yeah, and like the thing is, like, I saw people like so surprised by the end of Wano, and like I got it, but like that's Oda. Like I knew that was how he's gonna end it right from when I started it, because like that's how he normally ends it. And
underground magma pool is what you knew how it was gonna end.
Yeah, not that specifically, but I knew he was gonna give it like a sort of
BS ending,
silly, goofy conclusion, because like
lackluster.
One, it is a children's story end of the day, and two,
that's such a poor excuse.
So
I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying, like, I knew that was exactly what was going to happen going into it.
Just so many like plot points not touched on, and then you even get to the 7-day time skip. They skip 7 days. You get nothing for the dawn. I'm just like, what are we doing, Oda?
I think what killed Wano more than like even like the ending and stuff, Act 2 and Act 3, those did not need to be as long as they were.
Act 2 was just weird. Like I reread Wano recently, like all of it in its entirety.
Oh, you poor
yeah, Aniki, you are a strong man.
I stand by Act 1 is good. Act 2 is this weird kind of shaky mess. Act 3 has a lot of highs and lows.
Yeah.
Act 3 was a bit of a drag for me when I was rereading. I had just like 10, 20 chapters stacked. It felt like I was reading 40. It's just so much.
There's some stuff that doesn't bother me that bothers other people. Like Law having an awakening does not bother me.
I agree with that.
And it didn't bother me because people were like, well, what about, why didn't he use it on Dressrosa? And like, first of all, he just straight up said, using this in a fight can cost me the fight. 2, Law has the most context removed from his like story and his battles out of any character in One Piece. Except maybe Sanji, specifically when talking about Sanji versus Virgo.
And it's always been crazy to me how people downplayed Law, because that's like one of my favorite characters. But like even in Dressrosa, they seem to forget he's fighting Fujitora and he's fighting Doflamingo at the same time. And then later he's fighting Doflamingo and Trable. And then finally Luffy comes in to step. But it's just like he was fighting so many people. And these aren't like weak people either. So it's like, I mean, maybe Trable, but like,
Treble,
the long-
Diamante, Pika, all the same status as far as I'm concerned. Like a lot
Hey,
of
well,
people want to
things-
make Pika this really big, strong dude, and I'm sorry, but he was just a fraud. Like if the only thing
What, the
that
one with the super
made it,
squeaky ass voice?
yeah.
that one.
Oh,
Hey, what up, Walkins?
Hey, Walkins.
Hey, I'm here. I'm absorbing all of this right now.
You walked in on a good point though.
Lone
I
Wano fan
did.
has entered the chat.
No, like
I
look,
mean,
here's the thing. I have zero problems with Law Kid winning via ring out. And I have no problem with their performance during the arc because unlike Luffy, unlike Zoro, they never took a break. They just ran around the island fighting people left and right. And then
that
Law
started
went down
around
into
like chapter 10, 15 with the Big Mom stuff, and it went on for like 15 chapters, I want to say, until we got the conclusion or so.
Mhm.
and so and even her falling down a hole thing. I get why people don't like the bombs because they're like, oh, like they need help. But I'm like, well, they wouldn't have been able to help her anyway. If you remember, Law cuts Misery in half while his M room is attached to her and she falls. Even if you didn't give the bombs, that would have happened because she wouldn't have been able to give them any commands. So she was gonna fall down that hole regardless.
I'm kind of. Can I cut
What?
it in here?
What's up?
Big Mom is also one of my problems with Wano. I don't.
Yeah, I
Of
agree.
course.
I agree.
Big-
100%.
Big Mom
Big
is
Mom-
the
Big
biggest
Mom's
issue.
She
right
did
is one of my
not
problems with
need
One
to be
Piece.
there. She did not need to be there. It's
Or
like,
the Big Mom pirates who weren't there at all either.
it also
So-
undercuts Whole Cake
And are
Island.
still
because it's like
missing.
we just dealt with you, and you're
One
back
of-
again.
One
And
of
when
the
you're
things-
inevitably back, when you're inevitably back for the finale, it's like, oh boy, here we go again. Instead of like, oh, okay.
Jesus.
I've seen people try to use Big Mom as an example of Oda writing women well or good, and I'm like,
No.
Bro.
No.
I'm like,
No, that she's the
I'm like-
last person.
Oh.
I'm like, time out. Yes, she's powerful, but he made her an overly emotional tyrant who lashes out when she doesn't get the food she wants, who went around chasing dick to fuck her way to the top, who harvested seed from these men, had their children, and kept their children from them, like the most horrible hood baby mama horror story. Constantly has amnesia, like memory loss, so that she ends up helping the Straw Hats. Is consistently reduced to gags in the most random ways. What other character have you seen get rolled off like a bowling ball in a Tom and Jerry episode? Not
That's
even
why-
Kaido got disrespected that
the
hard.
thing-
I
why-
exploded when I
hold on.
saw Mothering Mode. I exploded.
Oh my God.
That's why I was saying
Like Big
no.
Mom
Why
is
you talking about
amalgamation of
this?
the worst stereotypes of like women get slapped with, and then to
I-
top it all off, he dressed her in a muumuu. Come on, fam.
I mean, I don't mind that. Here's my thing. If Big Mom wasn't in Wano, I would at least listen to an argument of her being the best female character written, whatever. I would at least listen to the argument if she wasn't in Wano. But Wano destroyed Big Mom. I know it's destroyed her so much you can hear my dog whining in the background. She knows. Like, God, Oda, what did you do to Big Mom, man? Like, first you give her amnesia just so she can bust Luffy out, and then you give her mothering mode, which is the I hate it, and I don't like using that word either, but I hate mothering mode. It is the worst thing to ever be conceived in any piece of media.
Here's the
Like-
problem with anime fans, though, when it comes to female characters. They judge them to such a bizarre bar where they're treated somewhat separate from male characters because they have to hit certain things. They have to be super tough. They have to be strong. They can't be in romances. They can't have, healthy type of relationships. And it's like, just listen to yourself. You're rattling off a bunch of nonsense because you take some of these tropes that have been done very poorly by male authors, mind you. But in response, you come up with this random laundry list of like
Human
check
situations that they can't be in.
Yeah.
and like this is also the same reason why I keep defending Ochako, and it's like, no, she is actually pretty well written. She has a lot going for her because like she's an actual character, an actual person first and foremost. But people don't really see that because like she doesn't have the flashy quirk and she she isn't always in fights. It's like, no, look at what she adds to the story outside of that. And I feel like when you write a female character like Big Mom to specifically just be like this big dumb joke after being built up as like, oh, she's one of the four warlords of the sea, or no,
Emperors, but we know what you mean.
emperors. Yeah, one of 4 emperors of the sea, yada yada yada. And she was really threatening during Whole Cake Island. Don't get me wrong, but then in Wano, suddenly the priority shifts, and it's like, hey, you want to know what's funny?
Mhm.
If she's just constantly whining. Oh, and I'm gonna give her amnesia. She's gonna turn into a big baby.
Like,
It's gonna
bro, why are you? Because and the way that the fights were structured, it's obvious that Oda was being like, no, objectively, she is supposed to be the second biggest threat on this island, because that's how he organized the fights. He went like, we got Jinbei versus Who's Who, then we got Sanji versus Queen, then we got Zoro versus King, we got Kid and Law versus Big Mom finale, then we got the end of Luffy and Kaido. He's telling us that with how he structures his fights in the art, this is the second biggest threat on the island.
Yeah.
And
you want to know another
you can feel it, but like her character writing is so gag drenched that you're just kind of like, okay, yeah, you're bigger mom now, and yes, that's threatening, but it's hard to take some of the stuff seriously because of how goofy.
You want to know a series? You want to know a series that balances gags but makes the characters threatening at the same time?
Sakamoto Days.
It's something different. It's a very different manga from
I agree with
it's called Sakamoto Days. And
yeah.
it balances.
Wait, can he not hear me? Can Volk not hear me?
I think he said it differently. What is that?
He says Sakamoto, and then he says Sakamoto. Yeah.
I was like, no, because I was guessing, and then it was like, damn, it's like, and then he was like, he just repeated it. It's like, damn,
Nah, it's a different manga. It's Sakamoto. Okay.
a different manga.
No, BG, you've been reading it as well, right? Like you can attest to that. Like it.
Oh yeah, I've read this for like a year. It's fucking amazing.
That's what I was trying to say.
That's what I was trying to say earlier. I was going to say, why are y'all talking about mid? We should be talking about some good shit like that Sakamoto Days.
Look, I'm gonna be real with you. I keep meaning to read Sakamoto Days, and I just keep not getting around to it.
What chapter?
Do it.
Like, I think I read like the first 2 chapters, and I was like, this will maybe get to stick around. And then it actually got to stick around, and I'm like, all right, I got to get to this eventually.
It's not just sticking around, though. That's the thing. It's taking over.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, bro, like, I haven't seen anything this consistent in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Sakamoto's, oh my
It's out
goodness.
every week
Reach
too.
so
Every single week it comes out. That's crazy. Just about every single week.
And I think we had our slowest stretch of chapters of the series yet, and they were still enjoyable.
That's good.
It's literally heating back up right now too. It's getting crazy.
Oh yeah, no, the chapter last week and this one are just so good.
Yeah, today was really good.
So
it's an easy read too. It's like it's not like
just think of it like this. I know. I don't think anybody in here would just say they're just supreme meatheads, but you need to let that side of you take over, and you'll love this.
Yeah.
I'm on chapter 15, and Sakamoto is amazing. Like his combat, every fight with him is just great.
Yeah.
It is. I have like 1,000 screenshots of them, and that's it in my phone.
Probably the best. It's probably their best series since JJK. Probably.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No question.
They fill the same role too for the most part.
Oh yeah, just think of it like
so
this.
You telling me it's even better than Roboco? That's crazy.
God damn it, Squid.
I could write better than Roboco. Stop.
Also, out of curiosity, BG, because I know you were here, do you remember which chapter we read on stream for Chainsaw Man? But it was an MHA stream. But we like each of us read it, and like as each person read the stream, like read the chapter, the stream vibe just like tanked. Like if we were talking about like the 100-point scale, each person reading it knocked it down like 15 to 20 points. Until we were all just like really depressed at the end of the stream and just ended.
Was it the Aki stuff?
Was that chapter?
Stuff?
It was.
I think
Was it the snowball? Was it the snowball?
Yeah, it was.
Oh no!
No.
Oh, that now I know. Oh, that.
No.
I
I
couldn't remember if it was the snowball stuff or if it was the Makima stuff with the power
bag.
Oh yeah, it was power. It was power.
The last
Oh yeah, no, I remember.
the last 3 to
Dang.
4 volumes of Chainsaw Man is a straight up tragedy. It's just, well, okay. Technically part 2 starts at volume 12, but like the last 3 to 4 volumes of part 1, just straight up tragic. And I just
break
like,
your heart, man.
oh. And it's like, and people give Denji a hard time because, you know, like he is a simp and he is like,
He's a simp. He's a dog.
but that's like
Monkey
that's built into his character though. It's like
man.
he like all of part 1 is him learning the hard way that he can't
Never
rely on-
simp.
he can't rely on anybody. He has to depend on himself. And
When you
you'll
really
know
think
that-
about it, Chainsaw Man is some of the most effective anti-simp media out there.
I know we had moved on, but oh my god, my favorite aspect of this manga is back. This chapter, I finished the chapter. My favorite thing that happens in this manga, I thought they were never going to do it again. They did it again.
Which manga?
Sakamoto.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, my favorite thing that happened at the end of the chapter. I love it. Oh, I'm so sold.
I'll have to read it later.
Mhm.
And I have
Also-
to catch up. I have so
Oh.
much to read, though.
If
I'll
you
read
have
it
not
now.
read Hunter x Hunter Dark Continent arc,
Yes,
it is in the vault now. So if
It
you
is.
have a Viz subscription, you can read the Hunter x Hunter Dark Continent arc.
do you know how happy I am that my 2 favorite manga are like releasing chapters on the same week?
Listen,
Oh,
I don't care about Hisoka. I don't care about Crolio. Miriam was good, but like I don't love him the way Twitter and a lot of folks love him.
I love Grollo. Grollo Slam is not
They be riding
tolerated.
him though.
I adore
But
Crow.
Setting Dish,
This
this nigga evil.
he is evil.
Yeah.
Evil dog.
I don't adore him, but I do like his character. He's
The-
really cool.
The current villain, that's my guy.
Oh, he's
Sorry,
like,
you're right. The
I can see that.
Succession arc, not the Dark Continent arc. The Succession arc. It's their journey
No.
to the.
Succession War.
Listen, okay, with Saren Dish, Togashi was like, "Hey, yo, I'm gonna give this guy some black forces and just have him just be crazy."
bro,
And I respect it.
the man had like, and if you want to know, look, if you're on the fence about like, well, I don't know, maybe I like where the anime left off. Understand this: Saren Dish is the man who has the Kurta clan eyes just chilling behind him.
Oh, that's what you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got that dog in him.
Also,
Got
if
that
you do
dog
plan
in
on
him.
reading it, it has some of the best Nen abilities, some of the best Hatsus
Yeah,
in the
he's got some
series.
crazy
in that
abilities.
Yeah.
Bro, his
He got some
Hatsu was
crazy abilities.
nuts.
Oh, it's insane.
he like I feel like Togashi kind of packages Hunter x Hunter as like a fluffy, bubbly kind of shonen series on the surface, but it is like a super dark psychological story actually.
Mhm.
And Saranish, he's like if Merriam was a monster who learned that he's actually human deep down, Saranish is somebody who's known he's a monster all along.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Even more than like Hisoka and Crollo, because Hisoka and Crollo have connections, they have bonds. Saranish, he's got nothing. He's just sheer evil. Like it's-
Rockamilla, I forgot about her.
one of the
Damn it.
things, one of the things
Been
that I
so
like
long.
about Sarandish too is like one, his Nen Beast.
Yes.
Because everybody getting that Nen Beast is something else. I will tell you this. Succession War does produce one of Tagashi's most verbose pages in the entire series.
Ever.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
just-
pretty funny though.
Prepare
And it is
yourselves.
100% a valid criticism. I don't care what Tagashi Dick Writer tells you it isn't. I was like, bro,
The light
all he had to say was, my Predator Hatsu does better after like extensive recon. He did not have to say like, I can do this for 48 hours. However, if I release it at 24 hours, it's gonna be weaker. Blah 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 blah. And like, bro, obviously, if it's the strongest over time, then it's obviously weaker, but less time. Like, we don't need you to tell us all this.
yeah, that's one of
Just
the
talking to
reasons.
talk.
Tagashi's just built different.
Yeah, that's something that like you kind of parse through anime because it seems like they're either like they get straight to the point or they go on long tangents about like explaining their powers. Even Gege does this, you know.
Yes.
Well, at
The
least in
powers-
JJK though, they like get an advantage from it because like
Yeah.
the actual technique itself becomes stronger.
I mean,
so it's like
the powers
you need to
in
keep the mystery or
JJK
not?
Actually, that also happens in Hunter x Hunter.
aren't super complicated at the end of the day.
Oh,
But
yeah.
the way Gege explains them, a lot of times can be overboard.
Yeah, the way Gege explains them is kind of like, bro, what are you doing? Don't do this.
Like when he was explaining Nalia's ability, he could have just been like, I can freeze frame you if I touch you with my
Yeah,
phone.
exactly.
Instead, he's like,
Instead,
you
I
have
got-
to make
now,
through 24
it's
frames of
Ryan's
motion
room
and
as
blah,
a-
blah, 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 blah. Like, come on, bro.
It took me weeks just to try to understand his cursed ability. And even still, I'm still lost on it.
Like,
Now
for
imagine
example,
a world
if
the
you look
reality
at-
running at 24 frames per second.
like, bro,
No, I don't want to.
like Hikari's ability. All this nigga has to say is like, it's like playing a slot machine and hitting a jackpot with a couple
Jesus,
of
I
extra
hate Akari.
variables.
You know I hate Akari.
You don't like Akari?
I hate Akari so much.
Actually, I
Why?
can see that. I can see why.
Why do you hate him?
Just his personality, and then us waiting for so long to get him into the story, and then what we were presented with. It didn't move me at all.
I'm mad he
Really?
light
I can see
skinned.
that.
That's why I'll mess with him though.
I haven't. What is it? I haven't read JJK since what was it been March?
Uh-oh.
Oh no, I
It's-
did. No, that's intentional because when they went on that hiatus last year,
Mhm.
I stopped reading, and then I was like, oh, I guess I should get back to it. And then I
Oh
binged
yeah, I
it.
remember you said this.
And then after I binged it in March, I was like, okay, this was a lot more enjoyable on binge. Probably
Yeah.
have to keep doing this.
What did you leave off at?
I think the end of that first Akari fight.
Jesus.
Damn. Oh, now I gotta check because that's.
I'm gonna be
crazy.
honest. After this new
March?
chapter, the JJK is back to being interesting for me. I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
these last two, or I think it's like 2 or 3, or maybe 2, but
Mhm.
it wasn't good before when it was focusing on this other character. I don't want to spoil anyone, but
Yeah, I agree with that. I didn't like
Talking
that
about
either.
uh,
hyperbolic
Look,
time
Don't say
chamber.
it.
Don't
Look. Here's the thing. BG is the kind of dude that if we say I didn't find this particular stretch as enjoyable, he's not gonna be like, "Well, you spoiled this and ruined this for me." Like that's not who BG
I couldn't
is.
care less if you talk about it. I don't care. I'm in a JJK chat where they talk about it openly. I don't care.
Yeah, that's fair.
And look,
I'm not upset. That's not one of my like the series I have to read every week.
it's because JJK like these past 2 chapters we've been getting like deeper in the weeds on like government and stuff like that, which I'm grateful for because the way that the Zenin clan was handled actually pissed me off.
Oh, absolutely. That annoyed me.
you went
'Cause I
Kill
was like-
Bill on all
I
of
was
them
like,
too,
you got-
and
I was
now
like-
you got resurrected like 3 times. It was
I'm
crazy.
like, bro, you removed any like potential political discourse going forward involving the clan structure, and then really wrap that shit up with some of the most recent reveals. And
Oh,
I'm
you
like,
mean with- I know what you're talking about.
oh yeah, I actually predicted that too, which is funny because I was like, no, like I'm pretty sure that dude is gonna end up secretly being the head of the clan anyway. And then it was like, yep, there we go, confirmed.
Mhm.
No, but what? Oh,
to condense the latest chapters, it confirms once again that Gege and Horikoshi swap tons of notes and they
Oh, yeah.
basically copy off each other. Because like Kenjaku's plan is near identical to AFO's plan. I was reading it. I was like, this is the same
Yeah.
thing functionally.
Wait a
Well,
minute. I
hold
don't
on, but
remember
we know what that
Kenjaku's plan like being basically just like quirk capitalism or in this case curse capitalism.
No, but we know what that is though. Why that is because Hori and Gege, I don't know. They be on Discord all night. All day.
Oh, they
Hey,
talk.
listen,
I'm
they
thinking
be
about
in the
doing
chat
this.
though.
They talk. They binged all of Ava in one weekend together. They're like,
Did they
Yeah.
get together
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
watch the movie?
There was actually a Shonen Jump
Yeah.
contest between like the other Jump authors to see who was going to get to hang out with Hori.
That's amazing.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
That's
it was something that they
actually
talked about in like an
fire.
interview a while back, where they were like, "Yeah, we call him Horipi," and like
Oh yeah.
basically Gege was arguing, like it was talking about how like they fight over who's going to get to hang out with him,
Oh
and
yeah, I
then like a week
remember
later
that.
we got the author comments about them watching Ava together.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
now I remember.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
That's cute.
that's why it's so funny.
Basically,
'Cause
both
it's
of
like,
What is he?
villains?
So what is Hori that just that one friend that everybody just wants to spend time with?
Yeah, he's that
Because-
guy.
Because here's the thing: is that
He is him.
despite what like the U.S. or like a lot of people online try to think, because it kind of goes back to that thing we mentioned about Exorcist series and superhero comics and how Exorcist is superheroes of Japan. But getting an actual superhero series to the level that Hori's gotten it in Japan is actually a pretty big deal to them.
Mhm.
And it's
So-
not even Sentai or stuff.
Right.
It's straight up just
Not
American
like Power
superhero.
Rangers, yeah.
Yeah.
So as far as they're concerned, Hori is that guy. It don't matter that like a lot of people online want to pretend like he's not. They're like, no, he's
It
that
is-
guy.
Also,
Yeah.
they pay a lot of attention to foreign interest in anime, especially like in the US. Don't let them tell you otherwise. Like
Yeah.
Hori
Like,
And
knows he-
before some weeaboo from like
the fact that
California tells you,
MHA
no, bro, it's
the
only
fact that
care about
MHA
Japan."
outsells most American books, it outsells every other manga, still here after 6 days, after 6 years.
Mhm.
That is incredible. They
Like-
pay attention to that, believe me.
They
Why do you
look-
think
Believe it.
why do you think they pushed so hard to make sure Legendary picked up the rights for a movie, even if it never gets made?
What do you I'm trying to remember what it was. Was it I can't remember if it was like 2020 or 2021, but there was actually a year where like the top 20 graphic novel sales were released, and 10 of the top 20 selling graphic novels in the US were MHA volumes.
That
I
was
remember there was
2019
like
that was
okay,
2019 or
mhm.
2020. I can't remember. It was one of those
Yeah,
two.
like
I want
it
to
was
say
nuts.
2020 because of COVID and all
Yeah.
that.
I
Didn't,
remember. I remember
uh,
there was 1 year. I remember there was 1 year where like only like one book got more sales than it, and it was like the Captain Underpants author. It was crazy.
Didn't
That dude was
Ryan
so, like,
Stegman
hotcakes.
do covers for
Kids,
My
man.
Hero? The artist that did like She-Hulk, Spider-Man.
I think a
He
couple
like
people
made
have done random My Hero drawings too. So
yeah, like people downplay My Hero's like success over here.
No,
Also,
man, this
super
is
chat.
this is like
No, that's a
they eating
membership
out
chat.
here.
I don't know why that is though. It's just I don't know really, because I think I there was a conversation on Twitter today talking about how they think that My Hero has higher highs than JJK.
Oh,
but
I
it has
saw that. I
but it
saw
has
that.
extreme lows, and I'm like that JJK doesn't have. And I'm like, what are these extreme lows? I'm very confused.
I think what they mean is that JJK typically stays on action a lot more.
Yeah.
Because for a long time, I actually did quietly consider JJK my Meathead series in Jump.
JJK definitely has some
Listen,
love.
man.
Oh,
one
man.
thing I liked
don't know.
about JJK, especially early on, was like people would fight. Like you could tell that Yuji was like very like the action for him was like very physical. You could get a lot.
Yep.
Which, by the way, BG.
Mhm.
So I was looking at the JJK chapter list. So the last thing you probably read was like the Yuta stuff, right?
Oh,
Trip
you mean
God
where he was
himself,
fighting?
yep.
Yeah.
Where he was fighting those two in that 1v1v1?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that was the last thing I read. I think didn't the Hikari fight come after that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I read whenever that Hikari fight.
You
was
read
next.
Hikari versus Charles.
Yeah, with the slot machines and shit.
Yeah. Okay. So,
That was the last thing I read.
but yeah, like nothing that came after that was as like my hard opinion on, I've said this in the Discord server like 3 or 4 times, so anybody in the Discord knows this that goes in the JJK chat, is that Reggie versus Megumi was the best fight of the first round of the Culling Games.
I agree. 100%.
Mm.
Everything else wasn't as well executed, I guess, if that's the
Because
word.
we know Yuta killed the old man, but there has to be a reason. I'm hoping narratively there's a reason why Maki didn't fight an actual player or another sorcerer.
That's
Nah, bro,
exactly
he had
what-
to,
that's
he
what I
had
was
to
saying.
fight Naoya again.
That was so dumb to me. I
Like-
hated that.
Like, why,
Hikari
yeah,
fought.
yeah.
I'm sorry. Why do we got a whole trilogy matchup with Naoya? She clapped him 3 times. That's
This
crazy.
misogyny is just that strong.
And then have the nerve to make his domain a uterus.
The
Bro,
power of
listen, every
massage.
time. Now listen, okay. You know what's crazy? I heard this rumor. Every time a Future album comes out, Naoya gets resurrected.
No, this is funny because whenever I'm on stream with you guys always mention like the 1,000-year blood war, and me with Bleach, I was really anime only, and so I had a dude in my Discord, my homie. He's always telling me to like start reading it and check it out before the anime came. So the anime came now, and I actually watched the episode last night because I figured we might talk about it today.
Hey,
and I was reading some chapters too.
Oh,
Y'all want to talk
I'm
Bleach? All right.
low-key
I
like-
want to talk about it. I want to talk about
Like,
it.
wow, this is really good. This is really good. I'm a couple chapters into the 1,000-Year Blood War now, but I'm like, wow, this villain's kind of insane, bro.
what's
Like,
the last
bro,
thing you read in the 1,000-Year Blood War? So that way we don't spoil it for you.
Yeah.
Okay, it's they just went to how do you even pronounce it?
Hueco Mundo.
Hueco Mundo, and then
Yeah.
I'm literally on the page where Ichigo's running up
Okay.
and he sees that general just took down the 3 ladies. He's just like,
Oh
Okay.
yeah, you early.
early.
That's crazy.
So
He's
he
like, oh
goes-
my, a Soul Reaper? We have a lot of visitors today. I'm like, yo.
Look, bro.
Bro, you don't
gonna-
understand. The
We're having a
rawness on
selection
the-
exam.
on Bleach characters is crazy. Okay, they just go wild. It's crazy.
Look.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you right now that the Bleach 1,000-Year Blood War, its biggest issue is like the last 10 to 15 chapters.
Yep.
And that's only because Kubo was basically like, I'm gonna write how I want to write until it's time to end the series. He made a promise to a fan that died that's how he would do
Really?
it. Yeah. There was a
Yeah.
Bleach
Aw.
fan who died, and one of the things that he basically like asked Kubo was just to make sure that he always like wrote the story how he saw fit. And Kubo was like, ever since then, he was gonna honor that dude and do it his way.
Aw.
And that's
He
part
was
of why, like, you
Kubo's
see,
a legend. That's all I know.
that's why Kubo came back in the same energy as Tagashi. Like, you want me to write a
Yeah.
manga for you? Cool, I'll do a
Mhm.
seasonal manga. What the fuck does that mean? None of us still know.
Mhm.
Think about
Oh,
that. Burn the Witch
you-
came out, and none of us know what that means still.
Yeah.
What is a seasonal manga?
You want this anniversary of Bleach manga? You just want a one shot? All right, bet. Here's a new arc.
Boom.
And
Like,
That's crazy.
I'll
you want
get around
the
to writing
anime
this
to
arc
come back? You
when
want
I
the
feel
anime
like
to
it.
come back? All right, great. I'll help out. Let me fix some things. Let me add some shit. You know,
What a
like
goal.
God. Oh,
Okay.
God.
Listen,
But here's the thing. I'm gonna be real
Uh-huh.
with you. The villains of the 1,000-Year Blood War were my favorite antagonist in the entire run of Bleach.
yeah,
by far.
Flash. Yeah.
I
Oh.
did that reread a couple weeks ago.
Wait, so I am
Well, y'all remember how
annoyed, but I
gas
assume
the-
they're just referred to as Quincy's, right? They don't have a specific name.
You can call
Well,
them
you
the
can call them-
Bondrich.
People call
Yeah.
I just call them the
Bondry.
arrow dudes.
Bondry's basically a riff on the Third Reich.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can tell
Wonder-
from
yeah,
the
Wonder
first
Race.
episode.
And also,
Wonder Reich.
He made his main villains Nazis. It's like that's awesome. It's fun.
Yeah, pretty much.
and we can't.
Like,
You literally
Can-
get to beat up Nazis. Okay, this is true. You know, it's
Can we just
you know,
can we just
it's
throw
truly
around how
awesome.
like the Quincy's basically get stand abilities?
The Quincy's, okay.
Like
Quincy's were wilding. That's all. I
that's
know.
all I'm gonna say is they basically get stand abilities
Really?
in this
I
arc.
really
Oh,
like the
The
way that the
Stern
Quincy
Ritter. No.
powers were
Y'all know
handled.
what was crazy? The Stern Ritters.
Oh
Like
yeah.
y'all remember Grammy and Gerard?
Hey, don't spoil Grimmy and Gerard.
Who's
I'm not
Gray?
spoiling anything. I'm just saying
Remy
y'all
was
remember
I.
those names.
Yeah.
The one
You'll-
who
you'll-
fucking Pachi.
You'll find out who Grammy is when you're
Bro.
older.
Ooh.
I need, bro. When I see that, bro, listen. When I see that fight, bro, bro, that's gonna be so meathead. I'm gonna go
Th-
crazy.
There's a lot of potential.
I did.
with
I forgot.
Jubu.
I forgot to mention something. I was talking to my friend. We were looking at how many chapters were going to be adapted, probably.
Mhm.
So we did the math, and it seems like they're going to like on average adapt like 4.5
Yep.
chapters
Yeah.
per episode. Why that's
Sounds pretty
interesting is
cool.
because there's 52 episodes. So when you do the
Okay.
math, that would leave around like 6 episodes of nothing. So that tells me they're probably going to add within this series 6 episodes worth of additional content.
So I
That's
know
six
I
episodes.
Look
know
at this
they're
man.
I,
using
I know they're
numbers.
adapting the one novel, I think.
Are they?
About like yeah,
Can't your own world.
I don't know. I think it's another one they're doing. I don't think they're doing Camp for Your Own World. It's the I don't
That'd be
want to
mid.
say too much.
Here's
because of
my thing
spoilers,
is that
but yeah.
with the amount of content that they're supposed to be adapting, we know that some stuff is going to get cut, and it'll be extraneous things. Like just in the first episode, because Fish, you just said you read it. If you noticed, there was almost like a whole chapter of that girl and that guy talking before they pulled up on the hollows and got murked.
Yeah,
But
they hadn't even went to well, I don't even know, like the living land of the living, I guess.
yeah. And the thing with that is that those characters just served as an introduction to the new arc.
Oh, so they don't matter?
Yeah, they don't matter. That's why.
Oh, okay.
That's why that all that was cut from the
I
episode.
think I think
Wait,
you see them maybe
oh.
one other time, but yeah, it's just
Wait,
Yeah,
it's
what
just like, yeah.
what Alves mentioned in the chat, the we do
Yeah.
not always love you. That's the one with Ichigo and Orihime, right? I've heard about that.
Yeah,
title.
it's the one where there's a wedding.
Oh, that's cute.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that's the one I heard that they're going to be doing.
Mhm.
I'm hoping they do Can't Feed Your Own World because there's a lot of stuff in that one.
I
that,
would much rather they do that because I don't
Yeah.
give a fuck about their wedding. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't either.
Wow.
I don't either.
I know.
Because there's stuff about the Soul
Oh.
King in Can't Feed Your Own World.
They give context and can't they give context to some things that weren't explained in the actual arc. They actually give some bankais that were never shown. Why the fuck would I want to see a goddamn wedding? And
I think we get
Also-
stuff about Ginjo too.
Walking
Yeah,
to Boy Trevor Tiger came
But
through, so I
BG,
want
it's
to
a Naruto reference if they make the last season about a wedding.
Also that, but Trevor Tiger came through with the super chat and said anime only fans aren't ready for Bleach's response to stand users. That's also that are also super not.
That sounds awesome.
I feel like people are gonna take this way the wrong way. So
absolutely.
one of two things are gonna happen as people like tap more and more into that SS imagery. They're either gonna be like, "Go Bleach for painting Nazis as bad guys," which when
Or-
you think about Japan's alignment in World War II, it actually is kind of like go Bleach
That's
for
not-
doing that. But or they're gonna be like, "Wow, this show has Nazis. It's problematic. It needs to be canceled."
Oh my god, Kubo just romanticized Nazis,
I mean-
just like Attack on Titan did with 4. Oh no.
I mean,
It
if you
was a
remember
bad person.
Ichigo's guard
Hates
on
women.
Tensazangetsu
Yep.
and the way his Fullbringer looked, don't forget that, people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
It's-
I forgot.
I mean, the Nazi uniforms were designed by Hugo Boss, so
Yeah.
Wait, they were?
they were.
Alvis, I was just gonna say Baz B. How?
Look, okay, so
Oh, Baz
there's something
B.
that we just have to admit, which is that if Kubo designs a character with a rival archetype personality, they're going to be good. Like, I know people like to troll Renji, but Renji is a great character.
Oh my god!
Absolutely. I love
his-
Renji.
I won't say, but just the last thing he says to Ichigo in the manga before that final fight.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna say it again. Just
Mhm.
One of my favorite things was
Based.
when, like, I randomly rewatched like the end of Fullbring arc recently,
mhm.
and one of my favorite thing was Renji being like, I like fighting the dirty boots girl, and
Yep.
only drawing his sword enough that the hilt could hit her in the stomach.
Mhm.
And
I've been
basically,
trained to fight Aizen.
right? Like, nah, dude. Look, bro. It's not even like I wasn't looking down on you for being a woman. I wasn't looking down on you for any reason you mentioned. You just not Aizen. So
Just not him.
what I look like tripping? Like,
Yeah.
Speaking of Bankai, I hope we get to see Aizen's Bankai in that last fight. No, because like if he's going up against Yuak, you only ever saw him use his Shikai. I want to see him use his Bankai. I want to see what that is.
one of the things that so this is probably sound weird, but I always assumed that Aizen might not have had it only because of how self-centered he was.
That's another reason. That's another theory I've heard.
And so, like, because he didn't like need to commune with his sword like that, because his main thing was he was a super keto specialist. That's what like Division 5 was all about. And you remember everybody was like, did he just drop a black coffin with no prep time and stuff like that? So,
That man was just a god at keto. It was wild.
The man was just a god.
Actually, and because we're talking about Bleach a bit, I do want to take a small segue, partially for the sake of Thomas, and say that Black Clover chapter today gave me, I get like a lot of people were like, Yami is just Itachi.
Oh no.
But it actually reminded me a bit more of Bleach and Ichigo's training with the visor than Naruto stuff. So
I-
I will
I-
Yeah, I
say
can see
that.
that.
You-
I can
People
see
just
that.
forget. No. You know what's
Okay.
crazy, and this is what something the anime is gonna fix. The way people talk about like other modern shonen series, they just never mention Bleach anymore.
I
Think about
don't
it.
agree with that. I don't agree with that. I do not agree
No.
with that.
No.
People
Yeah.
only bring up Bleach to try to talk shit about
I saw-
it, but
I thought no. I've heard people talk about Demon Slayer and JJK a lot when they talk about and mention Bleach hardcore.
Yeah,
I
can't
agree with
I've
that.
seen the
Bruh,
same with that.
I noticed like Naruto comparisons way more.
Oh, I know, no. You hear Naruto comparisons with stuff like Black Clover and My Hero, but I
Mhm.
never hear about. I don't hear nobody say Naruto when it comes to those two. Those two are always compared to Bleach.
if
JJK
you're being real,
JJK
JJK
fans have been
should be compared to
swearing.
Bleach a lot more than it is.
Yeah.
JJK fans have been swearing their manga is a tribute to Bleach for like I don't know how many years.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, they always talk about Bleach with JJK. Like, I think I see tweets like what is it, weekly, saying like something along the lines of you can't not like Bleach but like JJK. Type, yeah, a whole bunch of shit.
They are
Like-
written.
Bro,
They are
have y'all
cut from
seen
the
the
very
drip
same cloth.
Like, bro, low key. Look, I know some JJK characters got drip low, but Bleach, that was like an all time, just like drip stat. Okay, they had MVP levels of drip. That's crazy.
The only author that's really come close to Modern Jump to having like,
Rocky.
the same sense of
Oh, no, man.
that's
Modern.
main jump. Araki is in a league of his own. He's just
Mhm.
Yeah, that man is a god.
the closest anybody has gotten to like having good fashion sense is actually Hori, and you don't really see it in like the main uniforms and the costumes. You see it in like his extra pages.
The cover
Yeah.
pages. He
Those
has a
kids
great
are
shoe game
very-
collection though. The shoe game is on point.
No, those people are dripped out. Look at his extra
Oh,
pages.
sauce
It's like-
everywhere.
Fashion sense is on point. As far as Black Clover goes, though, if we're going to talk about this, if you followed me on Twitter or you talked to me long enough, I'm very ambivalent toward Black Clover. I always kind of like
Mhm.
it's on the lower end for me. It doesn't really do much for me. The past couple months have been the best Black Clover has been
Agreed.
a very long time. A long time. That break really helped about it because I guarantee you, if he charged ahead final arc like he was planning, he said they forced him to take a break. That it would have been way messier. Wouldn't have been as good as what we're getting.
Mhm.
So, I like the setup. I like that, Sister Lily has basically been taken hostage now, and the Lucius twist is actually a really good twist. Okay,
Like
it's really cool.
Mhm. Like
Uh,
for example, like Bleach had such good drip. They literally had calendars and like and like from like January like to December would just have a different character and a different piece of clothing. That's how crazy it was. And they sold really well. Like that stuff was dope.
I do want to comment on what Volk said, where I feel like a lot of mangaka should follow the Tabata route because it can do a lot of good for them. Like so far, ever since we've had Asta have his, the worst day ever to the Land of the Sun, like every Land of the Sun character is phenomenal. Like they're really enjoyable. Like Tabata knows what he's coming into this knowing what to do, and that could well change in the future. But so far, I'm really happy with what we're getting, especially with the Yami revelation, which is, I know a lot of people like Aniki said that, oh, it's just Itachi 2.0, but it's like you can do a lot with this.
Mhm.
It also explains why he never went back to his homeland because like
Yes.
we bring it up, and it's like I'm just like, why doesn't he go back? And then just chapter came out like, oh, that's why.
He can't. If he goes back, he's fucked.
Also, something else is going on because I'm not fully behind this idea of Yami from this latest chapter. Like,
No, it's
like,
very clearly a
I'm like,
misunderstanding.
Exactly.
yeah, there's something else
See
going
my
on. here.
mans, he ain't do nothing, okay?
He got
I don't
set
even
up.
know what he
got
did,
set
but
up.
see my mans.
Yeah.
Yami's not a cold-blooded killer.
No, I'm like, okay,
Like he'll kill his enemies, but he's not gonna murder his clan.
yeah. It's like, okay, what actually happened here?
This is the
Come on,
furthest
let
thing
me
from
know.
it.
You know what? That one guy, you're right. He is doing Wano better than Oda.
So it's not even an Itachi thing because Itachi, like, he had to kill the clan.
He actually murdered these dudes.
Yeah, he had to
He
keep
just did it under the orders of somebody higher up.
Yeah, he had to keep his cover with Yami. It's like it's very blatantly a setup. So
Maybe there was like an identical dude that looked like Yami and they framed him.
there, people are saying that this Ryu guy, he
Yeah.
was actually one. I don't know.
I don't. I feel like Ryu has some hand in it, but it's not malicious. Because I don't want just a repeat of what happened with Julius to happen with Ryuya or Ryudo. Like that would kind of suck. Like, oh, he saved my life, but then secretly he's the villain of this land. It's like, no, keep him as this benevolent
I think it
person
works
who's just kind.
I think it works for Julius because it's very clear Julius and Lucius are not the same person.
Nah, they're not.
I get
It's
the
a Pachi
sense
situation
Lucius,
again.
I get the sense Lucius is a side effect of the time devil residing itself inside Julius. Like he's a fake persona. So
my stance on it is kind of like Julius is blatantly not completely absorbed or destroyed or however he tried to portray it, because otherwise there's no justification for him not just actually finishing the job on Austin.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you'd have defected this world, but I'll keep you alive and have
it's kind of
Sister Lily just teleport you away.
It's kind of the inverse. It's kind of the inverse of AFO with Shigaraki right now.
Yeah.
You see like AFO trying to like literally make themselves the same person, and it's just not working because like he keeps getting his ass beat.
Which, like we talked about last week, Shigaraki's gonna erase that fool from the inside once Deku gets done beating his ass.
Wait. And Aniki, something else I noticed. Like the chapter All Might talks with Stain, and it's like it's the chapter like he fully comes to term with his retirement and the fact that like his job now is not like physical, not being on the battlefield. He has to be in a support role. Immediately after that is when shit starts going wrong for AFO, and that's not a coincidence. That's very intentional, because you have one guy who's humble, accepts it's the end for him, and just is at peace with it. And then you have the other guy, his opposite, who just can't accept that, and he keeps getting screwed over because of it. Because like if it was what people thought it was at first, if like AFO was just going to straight up give Shigaraki his power, he ironically would have accomplished his goal in the long term, probably, like without his interference. Like he'd have created a new proper Demon King if he had accepted that it's just not going to be him in the end. So,
well, and that's kind of why I feel like the only way All Might lives is if he absolutely does no reckless decisions to get back in the field.
Speaking of AFO,
but I'm like,
you
I don't
know
know
that Tom Brady got roughly the same QBR as Marcus Mariota now. That's crazy to go from the GOAT to Marcus Mariota.
I can't believe horror reference.
It's so funny, man, because like chapter 316, like it's a menacing conversation. Like he talks down to Deku. When you really look at it practically, he basically says, "Nah, I couldn't deal with people my own age, so I'm just gonna pick on a kid instead."
That's based.
Because he's
so
like,
funny.
Well, because we were talking about that. His whole rant about how All Might is a bumbling oaf, blah, blah, blah. And then when placed in the exact same position All Might was in when he fought, when All Might was stuck fighting him, fighting a guy with quirks that are not as necessarily the most powerful, but stacked to have powerful results while being a complete physical monster and that being your only way to fight back, he gets folded like laundry.
That's another thing though. It's like he is constantly being like he can't tell what's real or not. He legitimately thinks everything is like a comic book and he's the main character. But like what fits him just like getting absolutely trounced by Deku and like him not even being able to use his quirks, like he starts whining about it. He's like, why am I not able to use my quirks? Shut up. I hate you, Eraserhead. He starts whining like a little baby. But that's the point, because like it's a
He
bigger.
thinks he's
it's a bigger-
Homelander from Garth Ennis's Boys Run.
Surely you jest. I haven't even used a
Ah.
single quirk
Dear God, no.
yet. Stronger.
It's not
I'm
exactly-
better.
Okay. Where was I? Oh man, it's a bigger dose of irony if All For One just gets like the most anticlimactic, pathetic finish possible instead of what he had envisioned, and it's instead Shigaraki who ends up, having the big climactic battle.
It would
Like
be
that.
funny if, like, midway through the battle, he like just died of a stroke.
I mean, that's basically what's happening. He might as well be having one, because like, think about it. You think, like, here's the thing. Do you think All Might was ever in a position where he got beaten so badly by All For One that he was just like in the air asking himself, what's going on? What's happening?
Nana, you
No.
promised I would have been that guy. Nana.
I keep reading that page, Ben. He's just like shocked. He's like, he never expected this. He never prepared that he could possibly be beaten in Shigaraki's body. He's just standing there, and he does his typical villain dialogue, silence you maggots.
And
But
that's
it's
the
just
funny thing
like-
is that his ego is his downfall. Because when you
Yep.
think back to Shigaraki versus Redestro, there was a bunch of physical feats where it was like, yo, what is this nigga on? Like, he had like Redestro was shocked by the sheer speed and reflexes and physicality that Shigaraki displayed. And you know what that is? That's the difference between All For One existing in the old era and effectively getting the loyalty of Gantomakia off of having a broken ability versus Shigaraki having to spend 6 weeks fighting that dude at 40-hour intervals.
Yeah.
When did All For One
That's crazy.
train?
Getting clapped for like 40 hours straight. Oh my god.
He was like the thing with Shigaraki though is like he's just like he is absolutely that dude, and him and All For One, just like Deku and All Might, have switched places. Like he's like sort of like the more composed, competent villain, and All For One is instead relying on him and having a big breakdowns like a massive baby. That's fully intentional, because that's how Shigaraki was at the start. And I even made a video about this. Like,
Bro,
way
listen,
back in-
all I know is that
Shigaraki
when
has
Tenko-
surpassed All For One, and we're seeing like Horikoshi is okay. I guess I'm gonna say this. There's two camps right now. There's folks who are like, give me Shigaraki back. This is all trash. AFO trash. Everything trash.
Hori
And-
thumbnotes!
And now we're having this conversation, and effectively, this is the showing instead of the telling that Shigaraki has surpassed All For One. Because if you look at All For One and his handling of this fight, the second a Bakugo or an Endeavor, like Bakugo, if Bakugo had already been trained and had access to his full Cowling explosion from the jump, I don't think he even gets hit in the heart.
Yeah, I think he does survive.
Altogether, I just want
like-
those shonen fashion. I just want those shonen fashion calendars back. Okay, let me see some for like My Hero. Put Shigaraki and some Fubu's. It's gonna be great. Okay.
Hey, look. One, we got to bring back Fubu. Two,
Yeah, that's
What
right.
the hell is a FUBU? I don't know.
FUBU is
You
a
mentioned
black-
it last time.
it's a black founded clothing brand. Fubu
Uh-huh.
stands for us by us. It was okay. So what's fascinating about it is that it was a black owned and created brand. It was
Mhm.
marketed towards black folks, and a lot of black people rejected it for Nike
Yeah.
Yike.
Oh,
Oh, this is
because
Fubu.
of social
Oh.
conditioning. Where it's
I'm
like,
glad I
but
bought
the-
Vans instead of Nike the other day. Then
so it's stuff like that.
okay,
But
Listen,
yeah,
man.
with
Those
the
Jordans, especially at their peak,
Jordans
I
are
gotta
like
admit,
crack.
it's all like crack.
But because we're on this topic, I think that we had Shigaraki established. My goal is to surpass you, Master. And if you look at his performance with just raw physicality, yes, Endeavor is clearly constantly training. Yes, Endeavor grinded and unlocked a couple more moves. But I still feel like you can put 75% Shigaraki against Endeavor without quirks, or I won't say without quirks, but 75% Shigaraki with quirks did better against Endeavor than All For One did. And yes, part of that is All For One not having instant regeneration, sure. But even when you look at the way that he was strategically dodging prominence burns, stuff like that, it just kind of feels like Shigaraki was already like equal to him in like technical prowess and execution because of that Makia training stuff. And now this is just going to be the icing on the cake, because I don't see Shigaraki getting dog walked the same way that AFO is here. I just don't.
No. It's
Well,
so
when Tenko comes
satisfying.
back into the story,
Like
somebody
the
gonna
reason
die.
AFO took over was specifically for these past couple chapters. It was so Deku could beat his ass to the point that he's just like showing that he's a massive man child on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the real reason.
Because it's the same. It's the same as when he was going to try to steal Endeavor's quirk and got his hand burned, and then Endeavor Prominence burned him. He was basically begging to not be cooked alive.
Yeah.
Man
It's
had like one. Oh, wait, hold on. Doesn't he have the whole? Didn't he just get rewinded?
He rewound himself, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he rewound himself, but he even said, and that kind of goes back to that.
Oh
thing
yeah, he's gonna die because he's gonna get younger and younger and younger.
Yeah,
remember he said heroes aren't the only ones with the monopoly on the sacrifice play, and that's part of why I feel like All For One, the person, and Vestige for One have slightly different ideologies.
Yep.
And I think that the Vestige is more influenced by the quirk than he's even sort of aware of.
Yeah.
I've kind of talked about this in the server before. It's like I kind of like, what if like the quirk is sort of like an entity to itself in a way?
It is.
Yeah.
Like that alien monster that you see in the exhibit with Aoyama. Because like I think a lot of people like focused on the evil eye and they're like, oh, it's just an evil eye.
Yeah.
So Aoyama was just a traitor. And it's like, yeah, that was what that was for. But I think that's also an indicator of the true nature of the quirk All For One itself. It's parasitic, it's reaching, it's ever expanding, because you see there's like tentacles and stuff coming out of the doorway. There's an eye, it's always trying to gather something else. That's what it exists for, to absorb, consume, and devour others.
Oh, by the way, I have a crazy fact for y'all. Do you know what chapter of a book released before Hunter x Hunter?
What?
The Epic of Gilgamesh. They found a new chapter like a year ago.
Hey, Tagashi fans got to pack it up. That's wild.
Damn.
4,000-year-old Sumerian epics getting chapters before Hunter x Hunter.
That's crazy.
Also,
that hurts my
because you're in
soul.
Canada, have you run into a moose like in real life yet? I'm just asking because I saw a thing today and I'm like,
I like strawberry moves.
A moose is like can be like 7 feet tall without factoring in the antlers.
Yeah.
And first off, I don't like any animal taller than me. So look, when
if you got to
to
speak to its chest, you know you've done that's something you can't negotiate with.
I don't want any animals that look like Monster Point Chopper just coming up to me.
Look, I'm like 6'1", 6'2". So when animals are taller than me, they're really big.
Oh hell no.
So
well, I live in Canada. I've never run into a moose, thankfully.
I just had to check.
You know,
Yeah, 'cause, like,
run like
even when I went up to
run at like 20
Muskoka.
miles an hour.
Wait,
Here's
to
the
where? Wait, where'd you say you were going? Well,
Even when I went up to Muskoka, which is basically like our Ontario's like lake holiday getaway
Mhm.
Never saw any moose. And specifically though, because that's like on the resort and whatnot, like they kind like they keep track of that.
Typically, I go to restaurants to find myself some moose. But I prefer the strawberry kind.
I once
Oh,
saw a video of a horse running through a restaurant. It was pretty funny.
Meat.
Wait. Was that like kid on the horse? Or was it just
No,
a
it was
horse
just like
itself?
a random horse. There was nobody on the saddle.
Because there
It was
was
just,
a
ran through.
viral video that hit Ireland where this kid was on a horse going through like our version of McDonald's that we have is called Supermax. We have our own. It's even better.
That sounds trash.
You're trash.
also, I real quick want to address Alvis's comment in regards to moose are to deer as JoJo's men are to real men. This is true. Because I live like by a park, which is by a river. I actually see deer sometimes just randomly chilling in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I can see over most deer, no problem. I don't think I've seen too many male deer in the area, but quite a few deer. None of them.
I've seen a couple deer in my life. Yeah,
Mhm.
there's a fat coyote in my neighborhood. A really fat coyote. Gorges himself on all the squirrels and rabbits. Actually, there was a rabbit that was running around here for like a couple months, like a few weeks back. Go into the middle of the park, you find some bloody remains of a rabbit, and it was like, guess he wasn't fast enough.
I am blessed we don't have them here.
So, how's that coyote doing? Does he like bother y'all? Like,
he stood outside my house a couple times, and like, walking the dogs, you have to be careful. You have to be careful that he's not around.
Yeah, because like a wild animal will pull up and be like, "What's good, little animal nigga?"
I'm just picturing the coyote. I'm picturing the coyote out there with like a switchblade. When you coming out, huh?
If I'm being honest, I'm more scared for my.
I got something for you in the animal car.
I'm more scared for my old dog than I am my new dog, because my new dog is an absolute psycho, and he is strong. Like I'm pretty sure he has some bloodhound genes in him. He's very
got that dog in him.
His sense of smell is incredible. Like even for a dog, it's incredible. And he's strong. Like he's got a lot of muscle in him for like a medium-sized little guy. He's powerful.
He did some work in the prison dog yard. Now he got just like a crazy upper body.
He'd survive. He'd survive.
He got that dog in him.
I mean,
literally.
Because like the thing is that I once got off the city bus, right?
Uh-huh.
And I'm walking, and the deer was just chilling by an apartment. So I'm like, I ended up like 10 feet away from it on accident. And I'm like, oh shit, there's a deer right here. Cool. That wouldn't have happened with a moose. I just would have seen it and been like, oh, I'm gonna just get off at the next stop. There's a 7-foot tall moose here.
Is it Alaska or Canada that keep their doors?
Wait, what were you saying, Thomas?
I was going to say, is it Canada or Alaska that requires you in certain towns to have your car doors open? So if a moose attacks you, you can jump into the car. I assume that's Canada.
That might be Alaska. I'm not sure though.
Look, those moose
but that makes sense.
Want about 350 from everybody. That's all they want. And you guys are just running from them. They just want money.
They just want friends.
Yeah, they're not going to rob you. They're just going to ask you nicely. And if you don't, well, then there might be trouble. There might be issues.
They may impale you.
Yeah,
But a slight impalement.
What you really have to watch out for are the moose that wear like button-down white shirts and black ties. Because they might be, walking around trying to tell you about a certain book.
Careful. Careful, you're going to give Hollywood ideas. You're going to give Hollywood ideas about a shitty horror movie. I still can't believe they made a horror movie about Winnie the Pooh, and it wasn't actually Winnie the Pooh. It was just some dudes in a mask.
I can't wait for that.
I can't wait for it either.
It looks so bad.
So fun.
Look,
too.
Trailer.
you telling me Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey didn't get you excited, Mo?
It's an awesome premise, and then they chose the most boring thing they could do with it. I'm like, come
Look,
on.
it's Scooby-Doo inspired, clearly.
Uh,
Oh, don't you mean Velma inspired?
Okay.
No.
You know what's crazy?
There it is.
that's what
The-
happens when you have no budget. Like, I would pay to see an actual, like bear.
So
Oh, come on. You don't like this
I'm gonna be real with
Shakespearean
you.
level writing where during his childhood, Christopher Robin befriended Winnie the Pooh, Piglet, and his friends playing games and also providing them with food. But he goes to college and their visits become infrequent, and now they like torture like random university girls in a
So are
rural
you saying
cabin.
are you
don't
saying
like
that should have
anymore?
been
And
Toy
Eeyore
Story
gets
4?
eaten?
Are you saying that should have been Toy Story 4?
Yeah.
Yes, that should have been Toy Story 4.
Here, okay, look, I want to talk about Velma real quick, just to say
Uh-huh.
that Velma is a
Lesbian been a
byproduct.
lesbian.
Velma, I've seen people be like, yeah. Okay, so the thing that's funny about the like Velma is a lesbian thing is that canonically speaking, if you look at all iterations, objectively, you have to mark her as like bi,
Mm-hmm.
and she's just lesbian for this particular iteration, and that's
Wait,
fine.
was she lesbian in Mystery Incorporated?
I think he was gonna
No.
make her a lesbian in Mystery
Yeah.
Incorporated, and they put a stop to that.
Yeah,
But
because I remember she was with Shaggy for parts of it. It was really bad.
but
I remember like in the 60s,
Hold on, Squid,
they
hold
were
on,
like
Squid.
Oh, my bad.
in the 60s, they were all blatantly straight because throughout a lot of the Hanna-Barbera cartoons and like crossovers that they had, Velma would sometimes crush on like various men, like her crushing on Johnny Bravo, her kissing Sam Winchester, like the 2000s when they had the Supernatural crossover, stuff like that. But
Mhm.
yes, so one, Velma is just the writer's self-insert,
Yes.
but two, I find the very existence of the show Velma to be an issue because it is once again Hollywood recycling prior IPs. And I get that this is a chicken egg problem because on one hand, there's a lot of people who don't enjoy complex television as it's been dubbed. They don't want to have, a lot of deep plots, or they don't want a lot of like new stuff, which is partially why reality TV is such a strong and powerful genre. You don't actually have to think of it. Like, you can watch a bunch of people be messy and be happy.
Reality
It's
I
easy.
saw
TV is
Jocelyn's
destroying Warner
Cabaret like
Brothers
all
right
3 seasons.
Reality
That's
TV
wild.
is destroying Warner Brothers right now because the new CEO Zaslav was the Discovery CEO, and he has been slashing all of Warner Brothers scripted content aside from like the main DC stuff, a couple other things, specifically so he can go like back to like this old image of Hollywood, the classics and whatnot. And it's just like he's lost how much in market cap?
I'm gonna be honest. What annoys me the most about the show is the creator. I think her name is Mindy something, where
Mindy
she was
Kaling.
Mindy Kaling.
she was responding to all the criticism, and she was like, "Oh, but Scooby Doo is just a cartoon about a dog and talking dogs." But what annoys me the most is this cartoon doesn't have the talking dog. It doesn't have Scooby, but has every other character.
It's just Velma and the gang except the dog. What? That's
hurts
crazy.
me. That hurts me, man. I want to see
It's-
Scooby.
Like it's
Bro, they better
like,
introduce
the idea has merit, but it's just like it just
What if Scooby Doo
executed.
gets introduced kind of like in the like a military base, and they kept basically do like Shadow the Hedgehog, but it's like Scooby Doo is the ultimate.
I'm just not interested, man.
Like
James Gunn was
Scooby's
talking
like
about
Nezu.
The ultimate life form, Scooby
James
Doo.
Gunn was talking about, like
where's that
if
dirt?
we asked
Snack.
if we asked if we could make an R-rated Scooby-Doo 3, the live action versions,
Yeah.
they would let us do it. And I'd much rather see that one.
Yes, I agree.
Oh, by the way, you know the person who played like Velma in like those DVD movies? Like, yo, I would want her for a trilogy. Have y'all seen how she looks? Linda Cardellini?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, Alves, that's my stance too. Having Daphne, Fred, and Shaggy, but not having Scooby is just weird. It's just it's an indie and Kayla self-insert fanfic. And look, I get it. Some people are going to be like, I like that, but there's a good chance that you're not supporting that for the right reason.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't blame them because it's a self-insert project. So I guess that to a certain degree, I'd be like, yeah, this is going to probably not go that well. Let me just not. But personally, yes, Scooby does have some good tracks. But I personally, like, my stance on this is kind of, if you really, really want to do a show like Scooby-Doo, don't take from the IP. Just go ahead and try to make your own and pitch it as your own thing. And then you can tell people it will be similar to Scooby-Doo, but you don't need to try to like borrow all those characters. Yeah. Because there's nothing wrong with trying to make new stuff. And I get it. Shareholders, investors, and all that other stuff don't want to do new projects like that. And all I can really say to that is you're going to have to bite the bullet and either open your own smaller production studios to get that stuff popping, or you're going to have to actually like fight tooth and nail as like actors, creators, or whatever to get that to happen. And you kind of just got to stop signing on to those projects.
One of the worst things that's happened to Hollywood is the disappearance of middle budget movies. Those don't exist anymore. It's either,
let me tell you, it coincided at the same time the middle class started to shrink. Okay, this is why this is deeper.
It's also the cinema. It's an issue of cinema and streaming. But go on, Vote.
Yeah. So basically, all it is right now in theaters are big tentpole releases, usually super movies, or you get independent stuff, or you get Blumhouse horror movies, or the
of course,
like super cheap. You can get
man
money back on them for like $5 million or whatever. That's all it is right now. Everything else is gone to streaming. And even then, streaming keeps expanding to where it's like it keeps dabbling in all areas now.
And that's why I say it's like a mixed issue.
Yeah. You want to know where medium budget films went? They're all TV series now. They're all of them TV series now.
Because
mini series, limited run, 6-part event.
Because I'm looking at, for example, there was that it was called like Bros or something like that. It was like a gay rom-com that came out. And this guy and the guy that made it was like, people didn't support it because they're homophobic. And I'm like, that's not it. Rom-coms have pretty much never been the big blockbuster movie bank, because like the only people who are going to go see those are typically people on date nights
or lowly people,
or but that like you don't see, like nobody's lining up for the midnight release of, I don't know,
Trainwreck 2,
a date night in Paris. Like nobody's lining up
even the
like
biggest,
they are for Endgame or anything.
Even
like
the
that.
biggest rom-com success story was My Big Fat Greek Wedding, and that was released in a very different time where you were encouraged to go back to the theater over and over and over again for a relatively cheap price. Now,
nowadays these tickets be like $15.
Yeah, now everything is so expensive.
Think about it, $15. That the minimum wage, even,
and they jack up the price of their food. Specifically because of how things have changed. And now there's discussion about, well, what's going to happen to movie theaters? How are they going to be bought out? I've heard speculation that, over time, the big film companies like Disney, I don't know if Warner Brothers can do this anymore. Warner Brothers themselves look like they might be bought out eventually. Disney, Paramount, Sony will buy theaters and basically use them to show their stuff.
That's actually a good strategy.
Yeah. That's a possibility. I genuinely think that's where it's going.
Also, so Vogt mentioned My Big Fat Greek Wedding, and it is the most successful rom-com to date.
Really?
Because it's, as far as film grossing, because it grossed in 2002 241 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that
but
was
I want you to think about,
that's insane.
I think
about
sorry.
I was gonna say, think about how many movies you've heard though of like action genre that have made like 500 million. The second highest rom-com, Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
I can see that.
That's crazy.
That's barely a rom-com. Like that's an action movie with rom-com elements.
Yeah, and what makes Big Fat Greek Wedding even more of a fluke, I think, it's the movie that holds the record of being the highest grossing film without ever debuting at number one or ever being at number one. I think it holds that record. So it's like it shows you that couldn't happen today.
No.
That can't
Well,
I
happen.
also think
Like
that
even Top Gun Maverick, which was somewhat similar, where it kept popping up in the box office, that still debuted at number one, and I think stayed number one for 2 weeks.
So this is a thing that I think is also kind of a bit of a byproduct of the Avatar era. And obviously, like it's a combination of streaming and the Avatar era. Because you guys remember, like after Avatar came out in like what, 2009, 2010-ish, almost every action movie, like I will say like 30% of action movies, maybe 50% of them that came out had some form of 3D attached for like the next 4 to 5 years.
Oh God, that was annoying.
Maybe
Well,
even
also-
longer.
It brought the
And-
Well,
theme
also-
of that back. Like in like the 70s and 80s, it was like big thing, then it went away. Then James Cameron devises real D3D,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden it's the big thing. Avengers, Harry Potter, oh man.
It
Don't
was a
say
lot.
Harry Potter. That's gonna break my heart.
Spy Kids
Rest in
3.
peace, Robbie Coltrane.
Listen, man, when I became an adult, I realized, wait a minute, J.K. Rowling basically saying slavery good if they like it.
Look,
That's
hold on.
crazy.
we can get into the Harry Potter reads real quick. First thing, super chat. Have you seen the fan made Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated? It's essentially Scooby-Doo by way of Riverdale. I have not watched it.
Oh yeah, my friend showed me that one.
Honestly, Scooby-Doo is at a point where I can't wait for it to go public domain.
Yeah.
Like people are gonna do some really cool stuff with Scooby-Doo.
Bro, can you imagine some of the adult
okay.
film work that's gonna be done with Velma and Daphne?
I mean, to be
That's
fair,
gonna
the
be crazy.
first Scooby-Doo movie was it when they go to the island had a lot of adult content in it.
It's
It's
like a
true, but
it's like a satanic cult they encounter.
yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
ridiculous.
And
Not only that, but Shaggy's main love interest is a reference to drugs.
Yeah.
Mary Jane.
I love
Alves.
Mary Jane.
And yes, Alves, he was talking about the elves because which that in of itself was wild. Like they like being slaves.
Yeah, they
Have
like
you ever-
they like working for Massa.
Oh my
But
god.
listen-
Have you seen Sean's video on Harry Potter?
No,
Mm-mm.
actually.
I actually do like Sean. I've watched a couple of his things, but
Wait,
and I even
which
follow him on
Sean?
Twitter. But
Sean
I don't
Ross?
know what to call him besides Sean, but not Sean Ross.
Okay, so basically he did like a 90 100 minute breakdown of Harry Potter, and like he addresses a lot of the different problems, and like the type of like sort of like, oh, it's all personal responsibility angle it pushes.
Mhm.
But specifically he goes into how J.K. Rowling is a very reactionary writer, because he noticed a pattern in her books where she would introduce certain things, and then like a book after 2 books after, she never deviates from this pattern. 2 books after, she will put something in there that kind of addresses the complaints she got before when she heard them, because like she was already starting work on the next book, and then she heard the complaints and be like, all right, then she addressed them in the books. One of that examples was the time turners in 3.
Oh
People
yeah.
kept asking, why don't you use a time turner to save Cedric? And then, of course, in book 5, like they literally destroy the source of the time turners. And it's like,
Yeah.
he jokes, we destroyed time. And then more than that, the plot of Cursed Child is literally going back and solving that old question people have. Why didn't you just save Cedric? And she just gives up, and it's like, well, it wasn't just her. It was a couple.
Yeah, it was technically a fanfic that she approved.
You know,
which
the
I
Fantastic
even
Beasts is
read it.
literally about preventing someone
I think
from
the
like
Cedric
learning
thing might
about
have.
World War II from the future, right?
I think the Cedric thing might have been her suggestion though, because in Cursed Child, it reveals if Cedric was saved, he would have turned into a Death Eater and he would have
What?
stood victory for Voldemort. Exactly.
I haven't read it at all. That's insane. Why?
Apparently, Cedric gets so humiliated at the Triwizard Tournament, he gives up and he turns evil. And he
Cedric
helps
was him
Voldemort.
for like almost the entire tournament. This is crazy.
He was such a good. He's like, I'm gonna be
He was
honest.
a
He was the
dog.
Mario. He was the Mario of Harry Potter.
No. Cedric was him during that entire tournament. How in the world would one L like he takes silver at that point? How would that make him such a hater? He'd be like, I'm gonna become a wizard Nazi.
Yeah, so I
Blade
actually
and-
saw the
Blade
casting for
character
that.
assassination.
Sick casting.
But what's even worse than that is he goes into the whole slavery thing. And that's like the bulk of the video.
What?
He deconstructs why it just doesn't work because J.K. Rowling has this belief that slavery is okay when it's like and of course like she doesn't think about it that deeply because that would require actually acknowledging what slavery is, but she says that slavery is okay when it benefits the good guys. She's a very
It's literally just every action is good if good guys do it. It's that
it's
simple.
protagonist morality. She has that's the root of how she constructs, Gryffindor, Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff, Slytherin, and she always makes Slytherin the bad guys because there are teams. There aren't individuals, there are teams. So long as you're part of a team, it doesn't matter what you do. If you're one of the good guys, you could have done whatever. If you were one of the good guys, you're okay. But if somebody's just happens to be on the bad guy side or happens to upset the status quo, they're the bad guys. They're what's bad. And he also compares it to like Terry Pratchett's Snuff, Discworld series.
Yeah.
Specifically goes into something similar where goblins are treated as like stupid and subhuman. But then over the course of the book, the main character realizes that goblins are in fact intelligent creatures and they're being abused. And you want to know what he does upon realizing this? He does something about it. And eventually this leads to goblins getting rights. You'd never see that in Harry Potter or any.
Ultimately, I would like to expand on that point. Ultimately, I think, like in the context of like UK politics, J.K. Rowling is a very like neoliberal, traditional establishment type person, and when you have that framework, everything in terms of the team morality end up making a lot more sense because that's genuinely the way how she views the world.
And you like look at the epilogue to Harry Potter. None of the actual problems of the Wizarding World are solved. She just
they don't get addressed.
Yeah, she floats them, she introduces them, then she does nothing with them because she's like, Voldemort's a bad guy. We need Voldemort.
Crazy how Percy Jackson couldn't relate,
and Sean, and Sean ends his video with like, everything's okay for Harry, and that means everything is okay in the story. And it's much like how J.K. Rowling, like she was living on benefits for a while, food stamps. Then she got rich, and then she just kind of stopped caring about all that, which is what leads into all the weird slavery stuff and all the skewed perspective, and us growing up and looking back on it and like being like, wait, she was really saying all that all along.
Yeah, 100%. And another thing is, and this is what I really find interesting, just like how like interconnected like her very like neoliberal politics is indirectly to her story, is that basically one of the worst problems with like neoliberalism is that it basically can ignore the rise of fascism. And that basically just happened throughout the story. And that's just never addressed. Like you literally see like all of her ideology down to the very failings happen in the story and there's no commentary on it. It's insane to me.
Which is specifically something I liked about My Hero because and One Piece actually even because it introduces problems, and it's starting to get around to solutions, right? Actually doing something. And so
I mean, I mean, that's actually one thing I genuinely do appreciate. I guess. Wait, what am I hearing? Hanzu, was that you?
And Ponzu.
hey,
So I'm
Anyway,
not sure. I've been wondering. No, yeah, I have been hearing Ponzu. Okay, good.
Okay, yeah. I thought there was like the ghost of Hanzu in like my audio. I was like, wait a minute. All right, yeah. So so one thing I actually do like about My Hero is that it does not only just comment on this, but actually wants to provide solutions.
Mhm.
I guess one potential criticism you can have from a more, I guess, left perspective is that it might at times seem a little more follow the philosophy of what's called incrementalism, where you're essentially making slow changes over time. There's some critiques on like that philosophy, but overall it's still a broadly progressive message, even if it's not as like radical is what
I'm going to be honest and say that how do I put this politely? Going by critiquing the strategy of incrementalism is denying the state of the human existence. It is very rare for effective change to be made through sudden, radical, aggressive, ideological challenging.
Well, especially because you don't have a previous framework established. You don't have the infrastructure to like establish a pattern of consistency. It's very much like
and when that change does happen, it has ripple effects. Arguably, the French Revolution, almost 300 years ago, still impacting us today, believe it or not.
Yeah, 100%.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Like, think about it this way.
Mhm.
Britain went around conquering places all over.
Yeah.
Mhm.
100%.
And a lot of people look at like the end of the British rule, especially like if you're in the US, or the end of like French power can be perceived this way through Canada too. It's like when those revolutionary wars were fought, or when those people decided to redact some of their power from the larger countries. They don't think about the fact that the Queen is still on the currency of some places in the Caribbean.
Mhm.
Or like how Nigeria has its Independence Day, but it's been less than 100 years. People don't think of that incrementalism. And what's more is that incrementalism is how everything has been achieved that has mattered. Like people will say, oh yeah, we rioted for 10 days after Martin Luther King got shot, and that changed everything. It was none of the protesting. And I'm like, no. You better believe that those years of protesting and the different opportunities that it gave people to interact with people across the aisle, or see people be like, yeah, I really can't treat all Black people like they're the same, was largely, or at least partially, influenced by that progress. And so a lot of people, and I'm trying to find a nice way to say, because how do I put this? There isn't really a nice way to say this, but understand that I'm talking primarily in the scope of US politics here.
Yeah, 100%.
Way too much thoughts, way too many thoughts about how progress can or should or would be attained is from a very, very, very white perspective.
100%.
Well, the problem is that even Black folks get sucked into this, because Black people will talk about how respectability politics are complete nonsense.
Austerity,
while ignoring the fact that objectively, if none of us in our day-to-day lives want to interact with people that we don't feel comfortable, or like feel like they behave in a non-respectable way. And that's something that like, and the reason why that's a very like white perspective is because it's like laced in the privilege of expecting to get things you feel like you deserve, even if you don't actually deserve them. based on how you're interacting with other people while ignoring how that makes them feel, because we have a culture that like fostered to a certain degree not having to care about how people who you perceive to be beneath you actually feel. And in turn, people can be like, well, I think because of this person's political allegiance that they're beneath me, so I don't need them to respect me. And it's like, that doesn't matter how, that's way too emotionally centered. And which is the other issue we have too, is that we constantly exist in these weird extremes, and extremism leads to stagnation more than progress most of the time. Because when you lead with extremist points, you tend to end up just sitting on these extreme arguments instead of finding a bunch of conflicts. That isn't to say centrism is right, because centrism has its own set of issues, largely oftentimes not getting things done or giving too much leeway to a side that doesn't need it because they're just objectively in the wrong for something morally. But we have this weird obsession with we have to be as radical as possible, not realizing that that's negotiation tactic is in of itself a corporate mindset, which you're supposed to be railing against, because it's supposed to be, you put the most unreasonable expectations on them to get, when in reality you only actually expect this, but you get what you need or want out of them because you set these false extra high expectations. It's brilliant.
Which is why I argue we need a more holistic approach on how we want to approach progress. And a big thing, one thing I've been doing is I've been studying a lot of like dual power, like a lot of like Black anarchists. And one thing that I've been learning is, building community power. There are things you can do. A great thing you can do, establish community gardens, DIY projects is a really good thing. There are things you could do at the local level to strengthen social cohesion, make it more easy to unionize, to do these things that maybe at the national level doesn't seem that important, but at the local level, when you see that those conditions rise, it spreads to other regions.
And part of how you would fix that is also fixing and getting people to be a bit more honest. And by a bit more, I mean a lot more honest on social media. For example, that post, that there was a post that did like 150K likes on Twitter, and it was just like, I made shrimp Tuscan pasta and it cost like this much, and they listed off the cost of the ingredients, and they're like, so eating out is cheaper. And it's like, well, if you're trying to actively prepare a different $100 set of grocery-based meals every single day, then yes, correct. If you've decided that you're going to have shrimp scampi homemade from scratch on Monday, and then instead of eating leftovers, you're going to make a new steak or whatever Tuesday, and then on Wednesday, instead of eating leftovers, you're going to make Cornish hens with Asiago cheese and all this other, then yeah, it's going to be more expensive because you're not shopping smart. You're being dumb. Like you're just throwing cash out the window and claiming that it costs less. We have to get people to admit that they're not good at cooking. They're not good at budgeting. They're not good at financial planning. They aren't good at things. And when we can get people to have honest conversations about not being good at stuff, we can also then have an honest conversation and plan around how to get good at stuff that are life skills, like DIY projects. So like, if you don't want to admit you're not good at home repair, you're not going to be able to do home repair because you're never going to learn. The crux and basis of learning is acknowledgement for a need of new information. If you cannot take that step and move in humility, it's not going to happen.
I was going to do a DIY project on my 3DS because like the thumb pad was like all messed up. And I realized I just could peel away the rubber and leave like the pad underneath and like wear a glove or something. Yeah.
Like one thing I think would be like a really good, especially when it comes to food, right? Because especially in like lower income communities of color, have you ever heard of the concept of food deserts, everyone?
Yeah, everybody knows about food deserts.
Okay, so one thing that also matters when it comes to like food access and security is where you're getting that food from. A lot of the food that many people get on average comes from, very like these billionaire companies, when you can build a lot of the food yourself in, like I said, establishing like gardens.
Well, people don't And I think that's kind of another issue we've hit too, which is one of the things, and this is why I've always said one of my favorite Black Clover moments was Asta being like, I don't have the solutions, but it would be nice if somebody smarter than me who could figure out these solutions would come in, and I'll handle the heavy lifting of like kicking ass to get there.
Yeah, that's a really good moment. You're right.
Having that like nuance to accept that not everybody has a solution is extremely important because not everybody actually has the answers. So if you don't have actual answers, you do need to talk less. And I think that's something that social media has not conditioned people to realize. If we have to just go through like thousands of comments from people who don't have real meaningful solutions, or their solution is give me what I consider the most convenient world for me with zero regard to what anybody else would, while saying that I believe all feelings are valid, but not wanting to validate your feelings because they don't want the same things for the world that mine do, you're going to have a lot of issues. It just is what it is. And so, yeah, like, you know, Noel and Mimosa would be people working on those answers in the scope of Black Clover. And so part of the problem is that people feel like they've identified an issue, but unfortunately, getting good is kind of a necessary thing in life. And you have two options, especially if you don't have people who will just come and save you. Like if you live on your own, I think that is one of the most important. And I know it goes against like a lot of like collectivist cultures, and I'm not necessarily anti-collectivist culture, but I do think that fundamentally one of the most important things that can happen in a person's life is living alone for like a year or two. Having to cook for yourself, having to actually think for yourself about how your entire day goes does a lot for your growth as a person and prepares you. Like, if you're going to have a family and you've never sat down and had to actually plan out your own budget, plan your day while knowing nobody is coming to save you, you're in a very different position than somebody who has lived that way and known that nobody was coming to save you. Because I've had friends who are like 30, were like 30 a couple of years ago, so now they're probably like 33, 34, where their parents were still willing to help supplement their rent in an off time period, all this other stuff. I'm gonna tell you right now, I've never had that. And it has made me stronger for it. And when you see people kind of, and it's not that it's bad to help your siblings or family or whatever, but there is a certain thing that is gained through operating on independence that you just won't have if you never get to do it. And I think that's where we end up with a lot of people.
Like there's like a certain mental strength that like comes with having to like really be precise with what you're doing, knowing that there isn't a net like catch you at the end. I get that. I get that like idea.
And so, and that the thing about that is that, in my opinion, the only people who are going to be able to achieve the results that you're after, Squid, are the people who have done what I was talking about.
Oh no, 100%.
Like if you haven't lived on your own, haven't had to rely on yourself and successfully done so, there's a good chance that you're going to not be able to maintain your share of the effort in the community garden or any of that other stuff because you're not
100%.
going to fully recognize the value of the labor you're putting into that stuff because somebody else can pick up your slack.
100%. Yeah, ultimately, like a lot of this stuff is going to require a lot of participation, a lot of education. But like when you look at like a lot of the problems, especially through like, for example, like food security, a lot of these areas, a lot of these poor areas, they just are lacking a lot of these basic provisions. There's very low access. And this has ripples in a variety of places, whether it's in education, whether it's your access to healthcare. You know, these variables, you know, correlate because it's all under socioeconomic conditions.
But where you started with this, which was my hero making solutions.
Yeah.
That is genuinely one of the reasons why, besides the fact that Hori couldn't estimate his own arc with Sports Festival, that was one of the reasons why I was like, no, this series isn't ending in a year when he first said 100%. That, because we had everything that My Hero has set up, from Deku being able to like starting to question society and wondering what it needs to go forward, and then him saying we'll get it back, no, we'll make it better, him recognizing, wait, no, I don't want to go back to the status quo. I want to move to something beyond that, which is interestingly enough the same point that Shigaraki came to during his time trying to foster the league, and where he straight up said like, yeah, it's cool that I wanted to be like you when I was growing up, but I realized that you were taken down by a single individual. I realized that you didn't actually hold up to and cut the mustard, and my goal is to surpass that and be more than that. And it's the same thing as like Deku has to be something more than what All Might was. He has to inspire others to act, not inspire them to complacency through his actions. Yeah, that too. The war hadn't even started. Look, people just believed what they wanted to believe, because if you believe the negative drivel that you spew, it gets a lot easier to be loud, wrong, and gain clout off of being loud and wrong. It just is what it is. Was that Tarnish? No. I think Ponzu's just been roboting for like the past hour, and we didn't realize that he's been roboting.
Oh, wait a minute. We should check on him. Ponzu, are you okay?
Let me text into the chat as well.
Yeah, I think he's just been roboting for like an hour straight, and I just thought he like.
He got one of those mics you use to like play on 2K.
But I was gonna say it's time to start wrapping up anyway, though. So, because we've talked about a wide variety of issues, which is what I expected to do, like talk about different anime, different manga. I guess real quick, how did everybody feel who watched the CSM episode? How was the adaptation? How did you feel about that?
I love the opening. It has like so many like little references to all the Fujimoto's like favorite works. Like I love the opening. So dope. Ultimately, the animation's impressing. They're keeping to the storyline very well. I like what they're doing.
Okay. Anybody else got their takes on the CSM anime?
I feel like I'm the same as Squid. I actually really like them. It's probably not my favorite of the season. It's probably my fourth, but it's really good. Like, as someone who's studying media, the first like 20 seconds of it, up to like before the bowling when they're watching the movie too, it was really nice to see like the references towards the Big Lebowski and
my mom's famous artichoke dip is in the oven.
That sounds really good. Actually, Annika, I had one question for you before we wrap up. Did you see the preview for this Saturday's episode? Or next Saturday's?
For My Hero?
MHA, yeah. What you think?
I actually don't think I watched the preview, so I'm going to do that now.
You should. It looks a lot better than what we got in the preview for the current episode.
All right,
a lot of movement. They did even show the dream sequence, which is good.
Hayashi is on next
My
episode.
Hayashi Academia.
Yep.
No, Google Foods had Mr. Beast on. Ugh.
Oh, by the way, I should give like a little update on my life. So, besides like the political readings I've been doing, I've been, in terms of manga, I've been I told you, I don't know this. I was basically fanboying. I was reading parts 5 and 7 of JoJo. Like,
wait,
oh my god!
Why 5 and 7 but not 6?
Because I'm watching 6.
Oh.
Like, okay, basically JoJo is like really long and old. So like part 6 came out, I think, like in the late 90s to like early 2000s. So I was like, okay, they've already released 24 episodes on Netflix. I've been enjoying that. I'm not gonna spoil it for myself. And then so I was like, cool, I'll just go to like the parallel universe and the part beforehand. And that's why I picked 5 and 7.
Yeah, but we haven't talked about this. We haven't had a chance to talk about it. Netflix screwed up Stone Ocean.
Okay,
oh yeah, it was
I'm gonna be real with you. I'm gonna be real with you. I'm gonna be real with you. I don't think Netflix screwed up Stone Ocean as much as people think it did. I think JoJo's
Maybe
is
not
gonna
Stone
sound
Ocean, but
this is gonna sound mean, but I don't think JoJo's is as good as JoJo Stans thinks it is by like.
No,
a
you're
wide
right. You're
margin.
right. I think that's not
And-
being mean. I think that's being truthful.
Because I'm gonna be real with you. I've managed to watch JoJo's all the way
You're
through
right on
up
this.
until like part 6, where I kind of just started dropping because I kind of like I tried to binge it and just kind of got bored watching it.
Mhm.
JoJo's is so I remember Araki reading something about Araki's philosophy where he basically was like, you can retcon at any time, and in essence for the sake of the rule of cool. And suddenly a lot of writing decisions in JoJo clicked for me as like, oh yeah, no, a lot of this is genuinely written off the seat of his pants.
Mhm.
And
well, he has a plan he sets out for each part, but
Yeah, there's like
very
a plan
infamously,
for
he
it.
kind of yeah.
It goes with the flow.
and because like, for example, finding
Star
out that
Platinum is the same stand as the world.
yeah, like that. I'm sorry, but you can't convince me that that's like peak fiction. That's ass. That was ass.
Wait, which
writing.
is peak fiction? What?
The end of part 3. Like, is it cool to watch? Yes.
Oh, it is cool,
But is it well written? No, that was garbage.
I will stand by the
Like-
fact that part 3 is like it's enjoyable, but it's kind of mid up until that final fight, and then the conclusion of the fight, it's kind of lame with the punch to the leg, and then Dio
Mhm.
goes, "Oh, I'm God!" Boom, dead. And it's like I didn't like that.
It's
And a lot
like
of people
an
compare
80s
Force Ship. It's better.
It's like early JoJo is like 80s action movies to me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's
Uh-huh.
like it's not the best. No, it's
They have
actually
like
pretty
6'5",
shit, but-
300-pound Jonathan.
but
He's
it's
like so
it's fun as hell, man. It's
Yeah.
fun as
And
I'll
so-
get attacked for this. I prefer part 1 to over part 2 and part 3. I prefer it's just straight up great.
that feels a little extreme, but I
that,
still
that sounds
kinda get it.
crazy.
It's more so just because of Jonathan and Dio's dynamic. That's the only reason.
But here's my thing, right? Is that ultimately, if we're honest, there's not a lot. Like, I thought part 5 was actually good. Like, I thought part 4 and part 5 were steps up from parts 1 through 3. I do think Caesar, and like, in fact, looking back on it, I used to have part 1 as like my lowest ranked part, but it might actually be part 3. Because I remember I was watching part 3, or like getting one of my friends into JoJo's, and we got to part 3, and I kind of just regretted watching part 3. Like, I just hated watching most of it because it's just a Monster of the Wing formula. And that's the thing, is that all JoJo's parts have stretches where it's primarily Monster of the Week.
Yeah.
And when you binge something that is set up that way, you realize very quickly it's the same as binging Scooby-Doo. You can do it, but does it matter?
And this is what I think is a really is actually a stronger part of like the later parts, like 7 and 8 for me, because I also read part 8. We're not going to get an adaptation for that until like at least 2030.
Yeah.
I'm
One
gonna be
thing I
real.
noticed was
read
that it
like
was
the
far
first
more
50 chapters of part
sequential.
8. I read the first like 50 chapters of part 8 and still thought that shit was ass. But
Yeah, it's not good at all.
I
like-
understood.
Also, part
I-
4 did the Monster Week formula a lot better than all the parts,
yeah,
in my opinion. I think it was a lot more enjoyable and
One
digestible.
thing I liked about part 5, like just in terms of like in terms of just like what it did well, I think for me was the fights, because there was far more like playing with the environment, whether it was the car chase with
Mhm.
Giacchio, whether it was the train station using like the various parts of the train.
What it
Like
did right was
attack.
taking place in Italy. I love Italy.
Exactly. I love it.
Gorgeous.
Listen, Italy
Very
has been
gorgeous.
a major L this year, but taking part 5 in
Mhm.
Italy, that was a dub. Okay.
Yeah.
I was happy with that. I needed a win, for one of my
Oh, you don't
countries of
think so,
origin.
Alves? But yeah, big thumbs.
So yeah, I like the use of the train, and like how they were like going through various levels of it, in order to like fight the mafiosos. I like how much emphasis there is on like team battles at like the later when the story starts speeding up. That's
Yeah.
I genuinely appreciated that. One of my favorite fights in the series actually takes place with Metallica versus King Crimson.
I mean, when you look at part 5 overall, the main character, Giorno, only has, if I remember correctly, he only has one fight by himself. The rest
baby
of his
face.
fights is, and the rest of the fights are him teaming up with people, whether it's Mista.
It's the nature of
or-
his stand ability.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very much
He's just
also
Also, Gold Experience Requiem, to this day, probably still the most broken stand in the series.
Oh, definitely.
I think Soft and Wet
crazy.
is I think Soft and
It's
Wet
so
is
it's
more
so
broken.
broken.
Yeah, I think so.
It's so broken. There are theories that Giorno himself just phased into the new universe without being
Mhm.
reborn.
I get it. That's a really good theory. But I think like what we've seen from Johnny in person, I'm not going to spoil for the people who haven't read it. What he has done in the entire part triumphs what Giorno has done, in my opinion.
Wait, who?
I'm
I'm
gonna
sorry,
try to.
I'm
I'm
sorry, what
did
gonna
he
try
say?
to read it,
Johnny? Okay.
Yeah.
but like I'm gonna try to go back and read it again. But like part 8, I was just like, this is a chore. This is
Mhm.
boring. Which
I've
one
made
of
a
the-
vow that as soon as Araki announces, part 9 release date, I'm going to read the series. Like
Yeah.
I've stuck with the anime so far and kept up with some details, but
one of the things that somebody said was that to read JoJo Best, you have to read it in color. And my first thought
Yeah.
to that was, then Araki already failed. Because the best way to enjoy a manga that is a black and white medium should not be to turn around and have to add color to it to enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. That's why people were begging me to read Bleach in color. I was like, no, I didn't want to until I got to Fullbring, and I was like, I'll read it in color, but still, I prefer the black and white.
Because like, if I'm reading a comic, like an American comic that always has color in it, it's the color theming is built into the stuff.
Mhm.
If I'm reading a manga and I have to read it in color to enjoy it, something is wrong with the initial manga.
Yeah.
Well, for a long time,
Like for me,
JJ
JoJo is like one of those stories where like when you read it in color, it becomes significantly better. Like I can't deny that.
JoJo
Like,
is like for a long time, people said that this was impossible to adapt.
Mhm.
Like there was like a couple OVAs of
Yeah,
part
for
3,
sure.
and that's purely because part 3 was really where it got popular.
Yeah.
And then there was like they tried to do a movie series. They were going to do part 1. Then Araki saw it and he hated it, and it just completely canceled the project. That was like 2005, 2006. Then 6 years later was when they got the show out, and that was like, it's hard for us to imagine because like for 10 years now, it's like been JoJo Mania, and it's been like it's a big internet meme now.
Mhm.
It's like it's one of the biggest shows out there.
I think the memes trick people into thinking the series was better than it actually
Yeah.
was. But that's okay.
It also created like
love,
a genuine confusion in terms of like plot elements.
I love this series, man. So I am gonna pull for it. It's definitely bad in some areas, but it's like it's so cool. But anyway,
It's ironic.
Here's
so
my
it's
thing.
fine to it.
The rule, it has a lot of rule cool, but when I look at JoJo's just isn't what I'm cutting on if I want to like watch something that's gonna make me think. It just isn't. And that's
I think what keeps it consistently entertaining is the battles and the ridiculous things he comes up with. Like even if they're nonsense, it's like, again, it is rule of cool. It is like, Josuke turns the paper and a gun is pointing at him. It's just like, it's just the most ridiculous stuff. It's like it's the surprise of it that keeps you going.
And that's why like I would say that the binge format didn't kill JoJo's. The binge format exposed one of the biggest issues with JoJo's writing, though. And that turned a bunch of people off. So you can blame it on the binge, but I blame it more on the fact that it's inherently just not like.
You think sequential storytelling works better for the binge model?
It should, but because JoJo's is sequential, it's like a sequential episodic almost sometimes.
Yeah,
Like,
I could see that.
Like you have a continuity there, but it almost doesn't matter. Like it's not gonna. And no, turning your brain off with MHA is how you get people who are confused that all for one is a capitalist. I do have more fun with JoJo's when I don't think about some of the rules though, because like for example, one of the things that threw me off in Stardust Crusaders is when Dio gets like point blank within star finger range of like Jotaro, like he could get surprise star fingered right in the throat right there and call it a day. And Starfinger just doesn't happen in the whole fight.
I remember reading like a
Like,
magazine.
that's a weird thing to just not do, like to just
Eric,
not tap
you forgot.
into like different abilities and stuff like that.
Eric,
and
you forgot. This is another thing. This is the meme because it's true.
Yeah, and like people will be like, I can't believe people unironically believe Araki forgot. And I'm like, either he actually forgot or it's that retcon thing that I mentioned where he's just kind of going like not factoring in certain abilities for the sake of dragging a battle out or doing something else. And it's like, I don't want to feel like I can't like, I don't want to sit there and think to myself, why isn't a character doing this? And that was part of like with the Hikari fight against Kashimo, where I felt like, why is Hikari fighting Kashimo and why is he not doing something with this jackpot to, it was the second fight after the first Hikari fight. There's 2 Hikari fights.
Okay, I'm going to keep defending JoJo to a degree. Like, I acknowledge these are problems, but at the same time, I feel like this style is also what lets him do the things that I really like about the series. And he does drop some, like, real kernels of truth from time to time, like, about how to enjoy life and whatnot. Part 4 is still my favorite so far because it's specifically him espousing a lot of personal philosophies.
My favorite
While at the
still
same
has to
time,
be
there's
like
a bunch of stupid shit like a rat.
oh my god, Jotaro
For some
getting
reason, he's
orchid
struggling
by
against a rat.
was so- Wow, look at Jotaro clapped Dio, like one of the most powerful antagonists, not clapped by a rat.
I've only watched Baki's anime. I've not read its manga. I wouldn't be surprised if Baki just goes off the deep end towards the end of the series, though, just because of where Baki Hanuma finished. So, but yeah, okay. Like
you could not. You'd have to pay me to get into Baki.
Rat was ridiculous, and that's the kind of stuff that I'm like, there's no reason why Jotaro shouldn't have been able to freeze time, flick this bullet, and then let it go and just be done with it. But all right.
The rat clapped. You know what's funnier? I found it funny how even a rat had more like fighting spirit and will than Jotaro's mom. That's
and part 3 as well.
That is
part 3 as well. Everybody on the team has super regeneration capabilities because like they suffer like horrific injuries.
And they just heal.
Nothing happens. Like, oh god. The one member who gets shot in the head. Like in the anime, they change it to a graze, but in the manga, it is straight up like he got shot in the head.
Oh.
And he comes back later and he's like, oh, I survived.
The black guy, was this Voldo? What was his name? Avdol.
My favorite part is still part 5 because I like the inclusion of Italy into the setting. Like Italy was used really well in part 5.
My favorite part is probably part 5 because Bruno Bucciarati is that dude.
Exactly.
Bruno Bucciarati is a savage, man.
Mista and Bruno are amazing.
Araki has also hinted he might go back to Italy for part 9. Which
really?
I'd be open.
Bruno Bucciarati.
I'd be down for that.
That just means you'd get Giorno confirmed, survived, and is now looking
for
what's going on.
It could be a different
like mad musty like the whole time.
Well, I mean, when you look at JoJo, each trio of parts is like its own trilogy.
Yeah,
sort of centers on one thing.
100%.
First 3 parts are about vampires. The next 3 parts are about the Stand.
Like time.
Yeah, and arrows and whatnot.
Uh-huh.
And then you'll notice,
And not like the newest parts.
Hold
are
on,
like
hold on,
about
Squid.
spin. Sorry.
yeah, you'll notice in part 3, that's where they introduce stands, and then that
Mhm.
concept is expanded upon in the next 3 parts. And then in part 6, they introduce the concept of new universes, and that's what parts 7 and 8 are about, and eventually 9. It take place in a new universe. So,
Well, yeah,
it's
that and also
basically
spin.
it's basically vampires, stands, multiverse. So,
Uh-huh.
what part 9 is going to be? It's very clear it's going to be his last one. So I'm looking forward to how he ties together the multiverse concept, because like it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
So when it comes to like part 5 for me, one thing I enjoy just on like a writing level was that it's built around this idea of like fate, right? But
Mhm.
it's it's very tightly woven into the story, whether it's how like the characters themselves like think about fate, whether it's the end of part 5 where it recontextualizes the entire message about fate. Rolling Stones is like one of my favorite arcs in the series because on how it just recontextualizes the entire meaning of part 5. And Abacchio's like can I spoil this or do I have to like hide this? Like something happens to Abacchio and there's like a monologue in like a different place where like his partner is talking about about like results, and it's like this whole like external message about like fate. I just really like the way how tightly the thematic like writing is for that part, and and on top of like having like really good like fights and using the environment really well. That's why it's my favorite part. Also, fun fact: Giorno means day, and Dio means God. So like Giorno is like the son of God who beats a guy who's literally named the devil. I like that little illusion.
Hmm. Yeah. All right. No. Even though Giorno is still kind of like my least favorite JoJo because he's kind of
he's basic.
He doesn't carry his
like,
story as much. That's all. Like Bruno outshined him way too hard. It's
the thing with Giorno is that he's supposed to be like this fusion of like Jonathan, who's like really righteous, and then Dio, who's like really cruel. And you see that like at the end of his fights, whether especially with like Chocolata, where like the last moment he just turns full Dio, does that 7-page Muda, claps him entirely. But he's mostly there to serve the thematic message of like fate and like the whole like use of Catholicism in the story. And that's mostly what he's there for. Bruno is much more like interesting in terms of like their actual personality and characterization, in my opinion.
Oh, also before we, because I was going to do the wrap up, but I do want to ask one thing because we got Fish in here. How'd you feel about One Piece this week, Fish? I guess Fish isn't still in here.
Maybe hold on, let me check. He's muted, right?
Joseph.
Fonzo, you got to leave and come back or something because you've been roboting still.
Joseph has a super chat. Part 3, where the same black guy died first twice.
Oh yeah, that was the other thing about that. Abdal coming back did nothing for the story whatsoever.
Just fodder to show that, like, oh, anybody can.
Oh well, okay. Ponzu, you good now?
England.
You're in England.
You said you're in England?
Yes, I'm present for you.
And you have a present for
you got
someone?
that.
He has that English Wi-Fi bandwidth.
So right now I'm reading the new One Piece chapter, and oh wow, Luffy got some drip. This jacket actually doesn't look trash on him.
I mean, that's standard One Piece stuff. You go to a new island, you get a new outfit.
Yeah. I know, I just like the jacket on this one. Right now they're fighting the police. I like that. Oh
Bonnie
my god.
Bonnie has
whoa. Law's looking mad sweet right now. They
Bonnie
turn him
has
into a woman?
shoes on in the new chapter.
And now Burgess
The
is
shape,
here.
the same big, bulky.
Blackbeard. And now
See-
Law's male. Whoa, we're having Law versus Blackbeard?
Oh.
And my stance on this is we're building up towards finally focusing on the Rocky Port incident.
Yeah.
Emphasis on like finally. And I don't expect Law isn't going to beat Blackbeard, but this is still going to be nice to see him more than likely dismantle like Doc Q stronger Burgess before it comes down to that. So that'll be nice.
Well, Blackbeard's a bit of a coward. We haven't really seen him like in a full-on fight. So this is like, if he's gonna be Luffy's main rival for the One Piece, you gotta start building them up. Especially since One Piece villains are kind of, well,
Kaido was basically just like Jeff Bezos when you really think about
they're
it.
not great.
He just liked
I'll say this.
capitalism.
You have Croc, you have Duffy.
I don't
you have-
consider Dofi great, if I'm being honest.
I like Duffy. He's fun. Lucci, I think his name is. Rob
Mhm.
Lucci, the guy in Water 7. You have a few.
Yeah.
For the most part.
For me,
They're okay.
Lucci was solid. Crocodile, I have in the good category. Katakuri, I have in the good category.
Oh, I really liked him.
But overall, most of the One Piece villains are just kind of like, and I kind of, yeah, they're just like fair. Because the way I see a lot of them is like Oda goes out of his way to make it so that you're like, all of their personalities are, you'd be really glad to see this guy punched, right? On some form or level, they're all structured around that. Like, would you be you'd be really happy to see this guy get punched in the face.
I will say though, this Im guy, the true king of the world, he's not fucking around.
Yeah,
he's relentless. He destroyed an entire country for some reason we still don't quite know.
Because Sabo's phone call got tapped and they knew he was there.
That's okay. People were confused about that. I was confused.
Im got that dog in him.
Because there was a chance somebody could have overheard Sabo reporting that to the revolutionaries. That country got destroyed to make sure nobody there could have possibly heard about it. And because they rebelled against the world government.
A lot of people are speculating that he himself is Uranus.
Which the funny thing about that too is that somebody pointed out that if you look at what's going on, it almost looks like Sabo is looking back at the kingdom when the explosion is happening. So it might have exploded Lelucia to kill Sabo while Sabo was already on the ship.
Sabo wasn't there, man. And honestly, my thing with him, I mean, I liked what he did, but if he's competent, he should be destroying the queendom where the revolutionaries are hiding.
That's going to be next, almost guaranteed.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
I just love how. I mean, I'm not too excited for Blackbeard. I've always thought he was just like whatever.
What? Why?
As far as Im goes, he basically embodies the world government, which is the other thing Luffy has been rebelling against. So
I can't wait.
On the one hand, you have
him.
the race to the One Piece. On the other, you have like the greater fight where Luffy being Joy Boy comes in.
And I think that's another reason why I don't see Law dying here, and I see this being more of a abduction and reuniting, like Rocky Port incident type situation, because Law's goal is to find like the true history. And while you could have that, and we need somebody on the good guy side besides Robin who gets almost no focus to still be around and have that investment in there. I kind of expect Law to finally lose his bum crew.
Finally, hopefully. And this could be honestly like a Law being sword revealed, because Corazon was like a secret agent and now is like his mentor. And I mean, we have Aokiji with Blackbeard. We have Kobe that's definitely already confirmed to be sword. So this could be like the three of them all getting together. That was my theory.
I'm just
Damn.
happy to see.
Look at what the
I'm just happy to
CIA of
see-
One Piece are
yeah.
doing, plotting.
It's surreal to think about because like he's planted all of these like real plot heavy chapters throughout the different arcs, and then he
Mhm.
has them go off on adventures. This is really the first time that like that's all tied together
yeah.
properly, and it's actually really exciting. This is
I'm
the
trying to
most-
figure out why you don't like Blackbeard.
I think he's okay. I said I think he's okay. He hasn't done much for me. I need to see him. Like I need to see him actually do more because for the most part he just kind of skirts away from fights. Kind of, like it's also hinted that he has like a really dark backstory. So I want to see that. For right now, he's firmly in the okay category for me. I don't dislike him. I just think I just need more from him. So I'm hoping that's what this final saga is going to give me.
I think that, and that's part of why I don't like I think that's part of what makes me kind of not like the Law Blackbeard matchup as much. Because let's say Blackbeard goes ahead and kills Law, then it's basically Oda being like, at least it'll come off to me as kind of Oda being like, I haven't really done a lot on screen with Blackbeard outside of having him murk Ace. And he didn't even murk Ace, he turned him in. But I haven't done much with Blackbeard besides have him jump people with his whole squad. So I'm gonna have him kill Law
of just a
Well,
slime
Luffy-
he is.
so he can
That's my big
be
problem.
a bigger
Well,
deal. Like that's what that
we-
feels like, and I'm like, that's lame.
We
Should've
don't
just
even
done
know
something
how.
with him.
Yeah, we don't even know specifically how Luffy feels about Akainu because Akainu was the guy who actually killed
Mhm.
Ace. But whenever Luffy talks about it, he always puts Blackbeard as the one actually responsible, which isn't wrong. But at the same time, I want to see how he feels about Akainu because he's the guy who actually did it. So
Luffy still be
He's-
grabbing his chest when he thinks about Akainu. That boy's scared.
yeah, he's got so many ops in this final arc. He's got Blackbeard, he's got Akainu. He's gonna have to go up against him. There are all these other rivals for the One Piece. And while we're talking about it, I've heard some theories about what the One Piece actually is, and I've really settled on one I really like.
I think it's Shaki's bikini. That's what I think.
Don't
it is.
please don't be that.
Don't
think-
no.
There's a theory that I've heard that I'm really gravitating toward that the One Piece is literally the world. It's the Grand Line being dismantled. It's all seas becoming one again, and that strips away the world government's control because that's how they regulate everything. They keep it on the Grand Line by making the world properly united again, which is what they fear. That's the One Piece.
As long as it's not like a mirror or something, and you looking into it's all the friends we made along the way, and it's not Big Sake or some shit. I'm not gonna be mad. I don't care. But
He's gone out of his way to confirm that it's not the same entire message what the One Piece is. He knows he has to make it actually something.
It being Big Sake wouldn't surprise me.
Jesus.
But here's the thing. If you're gonna tell me that they brewed a sake over the course of 800 years, first off, that would probably be like $1 million bottle. I'm not gonna lie. But second off, you did all this to stop niggas from getting some liquor? Bro, you wiped out
It can't be
nations,
it.
erased like 100 years of history and all
that
just
liquor-
to stop liquor, bro.
Listen, man, if someone tried to touch my bottle, I might smoke somebody too. That's all.
If it's liquor, it better be like the fountain of youth or something, right? Like it better make you a god.
liquor, you should be like.
It better be something, you know.
You should be able to like travel in time or some shit. That's all I know.
Which, mentioning travel in time, you make me think about Toki again and how dumb her plot line ended up, like her just dying in the castle is.
Yeah.
Like you had her travel through time and then be like, yeah, I just give up. I found Odin. I had some kids. I'm gonna die here.
What?
Jesus.
So you was willing to skip ahead decades and decades and decades and decades.
The void
Just
country
for
was
some
800
dick.
years ago.
Like what?
Just for a dick.
That's crazy.
Also, you know why I think the One Piece is?
What?
I think it's an item that will kill Alves for calling me Scottish and British.
Interesting.
I do not say it.
Bro, Alves
Alves,
is talking
you're on my
crazy on your
list.
name, bro. You gotta beat his ass. That's
You're
crazy.
on my list.
Man, all right.
I did not. My country did not go through a war.
Also,
against
I'm
the
calling
British
it
for
right
this.
now. I'm calling it right now. Final battle takes place in God Valley. It has to be.
I hope so.
I think I want that too.
Like I like the way MHA is doing it, where it's like every location in the series, but that's specifically because of Warpgate. That's how it works.
Yeah.
There's not really an equivalent in One Piece, and he hasn't gone out of his way to set something up. So it's probably going to be one location. Pull up Avengers style, bum 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 bum. Pirates assemble or whatever. Straw Hat Fleet, all the other pirates.
Hey, yo. I didn't even think about that.
That's deep.
Roger, it seems like we're too early. A shame we don't have anyone who can send us 20 years into the future. Fucking hell, Oda. What the hell?
Toki's gotta be pound for pound the dumbest bitch in the series. I'm gonna say that.
Like, you could have, like, hell, Odin could have been like, Toki, in 20 years, this should happen. And then just fast forwarded everything. Or whatever. Dog. Toki, nah, bro. Toki dying is like the most selfish move in the entire series. What the hell? All right.
Listen, when
I feel
Toki
like
died,
I feel like a
Listen, when
lot of
Doki
series
died,
reached the
I
point
feel
in power
Hold
scaling
on,
where
Volt, hold on.
solidified
I mean, not Volt. Squid, hold on.
Mhm.
What were you saying, Volt?
I feel like a lot of series get to the point where it's like they introduce a power or two that's basically the equivalent of a stand. And even MHA, it hit that point between Star and now Deku with Gear Shift. They straight up say, "Oh yeah, it messes with reality." And it's just like, well, that's a lot, you know. So
It's a shit, like, it allows you to manipulate the properties of inertia. So,
yeah,
Yeah,
unlike-
but
he was
the problem
manipulating
here.
sound. Sound goes one speed unless it meets like unless it's a vibration.
Oh, I track that more to his fist hitting, like breaking the sound barrier. So
Yeah.
Mirio was seeing his fist hit him, but wasn't hearing it until like a second or two later. That's how I interpreted that.
Yeah.
So that's not as egregious, but
It's also part of the reason why I think Deku is going to actually get New Order. I think he's going to get it.
oh,
Ooh.
I know.
Spicy,
I've
daring
talked to
we
some
are
people
today,
about
huh?
it. And they nixed it immediately. It's like, no, that quirk got destroyed, and it's like, well, yeah, but it's like by its very nature, it can set up some bullshit rules. So
yeah.
just beware. Like maybe like he's already the strongest hero in history, and then Shigaraki, when he comes back, he's gonna wipe the floor with everybody. So he's gonna need something else. And shonen manga is all about escalation. Trust me. What else does he have?
Yeah.
If new like it is sort of set up too, because like All For One says is like, oh, what I really wanted to see was New Order and One For All colluding, and then you never got that, which would be strange. So I think we are going to get it. Just be prepared.
Is Joe Biden going to give him a stored copy of New Order?
I've always felt like when this main battle is going to go down between One For All and All For One, that it's going to be like in the Vestige world, but at the same time, the Vestiges are going to try to help Deku or whatever, but some of them are going to like perish. So then those are going to be the quirks that he loses.
Just imagine like they hold All For One in place and they put their hands on him, like the hands are on Shigaraki, and then Deku has to pull Tenko out like with Black Whip. That would be cool.
Jesus. Tenko's evil. Tenko's evil, just like Shigaraki's evil. I think a lot of people forget that too, though.
Yeah.
He got pleasure from killing his dad, so let's not forget that.
Tenko is innocent and scared, but he's still pretty messed up.
I think it was JJ, formerly JJ the Meme One, who said it best. One of the worst things that's going to happen with this season continuing and airing is the number of fans who don't believe that Dobby is accountable or culpable for any of his actions.
Oh,
will be
yeah, of course.
increasing.
Yeah.
And that's just so disappointing.
Yeah.
I said it in the VC like a few days ago when the episode came out where East was there. I was like, how do you feel about the fact that we're going to have the anime version of what we got with the manga readers? Just again, especially with the Twice versus Hawks claims, like, oh, was Hawks in the wrong? Twice should have lived, etc. But we're going to have that with Dobby again.
All I know is that I'm very curious to see how they do the Dobby's dance, because I've always kind of imagined him tap dancing through that whole thing. And nothing would make my day more than it turning out that Dobby had custom tap dance shoes made for him by Detner that can support and deal with the flames just so he could dance.
You know, those shoes.
He was dancing on the grave of Endeavor's career while making that declaration. Like,
you know those shoes with the wheels that's built into them, and you hit like a little button and it pops out. I feel like you'll have the tap. It's like both dancing shoes and tap shoes just fused together.
If some of the vestiges die, though, what does that mean for Deku's quirks? Are vestiges directly tied to what he's gotten?
I feel like it is. I feel like if he loses some of the vestiges, like those quirks are gonna be gone.
Yeah.
Aniki, what do you think?
I think it's possible, and I'm not entirely against him losing some of those extra quirks at the end. It's just that I do think that with what Hori has kind of set up for him, it would be, I've kind of always expected the vestiges to go away, but like in a they've made peace with themselves type way, not in a him losing the quirks way. So I do think that the vestiges have to go at some point just to make peace with existence.
I hope they all stick around at least for like the end, you know. I see a big goodbye scene because like when you really think about it, One for All is more of a poltergeist than it is a quirk. It's literally a ghost quirk passed on just like through some strands of DNA. So
but, all right, I meant to wrap
he
up.
Literally has 8 spirits floating around him. Like it's a haunting. The haunting of Midoriya.
I meant to wrap up like
Workers United
30 minutes
police
ago.
are
So let's
changed.
go around the horn. Squid, final thoughts for the day. Any topics that you want to just real quick air out? I'm gonna give you 1 minute.
Oh yeah, so I forgot to tell y'all. Couple weeks ago, I had a shoulder strain. I tore something in my shoulder, and I've been getting a rehab for that, and it's been going pretty well. I've been starting to regain some of the former strength back, but I can't necessarily teach grappling for like the next month now. Like a lot of the moves are just off the table for me. Besides that, oh, by the way, for all of my American church members, make sure to go vote this election. Make sure your voice is heard. I left resources in scripture so you guys know in which state where the registration limits are. Just make sure your voice is heard, stuff like that. Stay active in your community and have good health, everyone. And yeah, that's my thoughts for the day.
Thomas?
1 minute, huh? Okay. So the new My Hero episode, gas. I've been in the server. I'm known as an optimistic person, and I've always said I had faith in the adaptation. Although it's not perfect, it's really good start, and I love it. Also, a week ago, I went to New York for the first time. Very good city. I loved it to pieces because I've never been outside of Europe, and just experiencing the New York culture. It's great. I also want to say that Bleach. I'm glad I'm officially caught up to it. Well, the anime, it's really good. Blue Lock, I still need to watch that. For Chill Cascade, if you're listening, I'll talk about that with you. And I think that's it. Also, Deku top 1. Your favorite character doesn't match, and stay safe, everyone. Make sure to drink water and eat your veggies.
Okay,
That's
important question before I segue off to Volk. did you have a classic NY slice of pizza, and was
Yes.
it worth the hype?
Oh, absolutely. Although I went to, you know, in Spider-Man 2, where Peter is working at the pizzeria, I went to the same pizzeria. It was great.
Aw, that's nice.
Yeah, and I also
Nice.
I went to a diner and I had like this massive pizza, not pizza, burger with pastrami in it. I think it's called a skyscraper.
That
Gorgeous
sounds
too.
delicious.
Oh,
I
it's
love
so good.
I love cooked pastrami. Oh my god.
Oh, it's
There's
so
a place
nice.
called Jake's Deli here. Oh,
Mhm.
Pastrami gives me allergies. I don't know why.
look, man,
Weak.
you can get they'll give you a corned beef Philly.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
so good.
also,
Oh no, I love pastrami. I just got to take my EpiPen after.
I want to say
That's all
everyone
good.
hyped up root beer for the longest time. It tastes like Coke mixed with the taste you get when you brush your teeth, like the mint.
What root beer did you have? What brand?
It's like A&W or something like that, or it was Dr. Brown as well.
Oh, first off, Dr. Brown is likely a generic, so that's where you messed up.
You know, that's
Yeah.
right.
And A&W is kind of like a super mainstream one. If you come to Wisconsin, where you should have come instead of going to New York, you weirdo,
Wow,
I'll get
look at
you
you.
I'll get you
Sad.
some gourmet root beer
Ooh, that
made
sounds
in
nice.
fires. All right.
Made in fires.
Yep.
Yeah,
Bulk.
there's a way to cook
Well,
this.
I won't really defend the A&W root beer, but I can say that A&W restaurants up here in Canada offer some great food for fast food.
Ooh.
Anyway, oh, look, man, it's a better time than ever to be a fan of this shit. You know, like a lot of series are reaching their peaks. A lot of series are like there's more stuff being adapted than ever before. We got so much to talk about. There's so much to discover. Be aware of the coyotes in your neighborhood because one is currently on the hunt for my own dogs. And yeah, I really can't wait for, you know, like the fact as far as MHA goes, like the fact that we have spent so long at UA is specifically because All for One is about to exit stage left and it's about to be Shigaraki season again. Mark my words. And if that happens, then all of this possession stuff will be worth it because, well, Shigaraki will have literally overcome himself from the inside and will have fully earned that title as greatest villain. But anyway, that's it for me today. And yeah, I'm just gonna play some Soul Hackers 2 and mind-numbingly grind the shit out of that game. So,
all right.
I'm still excited for God of War Ragnarok.
Fish.
Well, so funny as Squid would bring up God of War Ragnarok. I'm actually doing a playthrough on my channel right now of the last God of War with him and his son. And I love it. I love their relationship. I'm kind of a fraud. I didn't want to mention this earlier, but I have not seen season 5 of MHA, so I'm kind of deciding if I want to skip it or go straight to season 6. I probably won't. I'll probably just have to watch season 5.
Please
and,
do.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch it.
I'm gonna tell you right now, Fish. There's some stuff they could have done better, but genuinely, MHA has the weirdest, most hypersensitive fandom.
Yeah.
Out. It's disturbing.
Yeah, we've talked about it. How
there are some that are comparable, but I think with
y'all remember the Bleach fandom in its prime? He straight up got a character revived because how bad that shit was.
It's been on the scene for a while, but not long enough for fans to get used to kind of being criticized. Because believe me, like as long as I've been in MHA, I've seen some really harsh criticisms. A couple stick, most of them go away. So, yeah.
Oh, but I want to thank all you guys because I'm genuinely enjoying this 1,000-Year Blood War. I'm making my way through the Soul Society right now. Is getting attacked or whatever. This is this is amazing, bro. Like I don't know why I'm just liking this so much. I really am.
Because it's Bleach also is a series that runs off of Rule of Cool a bit, but with, in my opinion, a stricter adherence to the lore that it's trying to establish. And the look, some stories don't let villains flex as hard as they should, and
Yeah.
that was not the case with the invasion of the Soul Society. Like you
Bro,
got some
Bleach
cool
villains
moments.
are like legendary
Actually,
flexers.
have you gotten to the Yamamoto fight?
I haven't. I'm literally at the page right now where I don't know this captain's name. He's like he's like an animal.
Oh,
Yeah, I know what he's talking about.
What? I
He
haven't
looks like a
watched him in this
fox.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
fox.
like a
like
fox.
yeah.
He says even a little girl like you is a warrior
Sajin
for the
Komamura.
invading
Sajin
army.
Komamura.
Komamura, yeah.
She
Yeah.
says a doggy like you is a captain.
I saw that shit. I was like, ah.
Yeah, this is heat, bro. I'm just loving it. Everyone's getting their matchups right now on the like, okay, it's about to go down.
Let me see.
One thing I love about Bleach was that motherfuckers would box. Okay.
What chapter are you at?
I'm at chapter 495, page 13.
Okay, so I guess it's not to like the 530s, but when you get there, you're gonna be like, oh, okay then. Because you're gonna get to see old man Yama
Doing this
do the
thing.
thing.
Okay, for sure.
The thing. The legendary thing.
Bro, Yamamoto is a fucking goat. Like, what are we talking about here, man? Like,
Man.
he
all right.
concentrates
There
all
is
the
no
heat into
finer
his-
security than I.
when
All
he-
right.
bro, when
He's
he-
so cool.
Well, he says
concentrates all
there's no
fire-
greater security than me being here.
Mhm.
And he gets.
That was
I don't
raw.
want to. I don't want to.
Yeah. So I'm gonna wrap this stream up. I'm gonna go ahead and hop off as soon as I end this, just for you guys to know. But gonna go ahead. Thanks everybody who came through, because I know this isn't a Church of MHA live reaction or anything like that, but you guys still
Yeah.
came in, decided
There's
to
no
watch a
Pop
bit, and
Tarts.
sit around and discuss. We talked a little bit about Pop Tarts.
Did
We
you?
just
Yeah.
also admitted that toaster strudel is better. But then BG
That's
was
crazy.
like, I haven't had toaster strudel in a long time, but he still buys Pop Tarts.
I had my
Uh,
first Pop Tart today as well.
Oh, what Pop Tart did you have?
Strawberry. Because it was
Did
the
you
only
like
one
it?
in the store.
Damn, low key,
It's
you kind of
good,
soft
okay.
for that though.
It's
You kind
good.
of soft. I ain't gonna
It's not
lie.
the best, but it's okay.
That's a mid, bro.
I like the brown sugar cinnamon ones a lot too. The classic flavors of Pop Tarts are good, except the cherry ones. Fuck the cherry Pop Tarts. But anyway, I'm gonna wrap the story up. I'll wrap this stream up on that.
I
Y'all
love
be
the
safe.
I love the Spider-Man Pop Tarts.
They're best.
Spider-Man, Tie-in from 2002.